All right. I'd like to call the order of Yreka City Council meeting. Is there any public comments? Close public comments and go into closed session. I'd like to call the order of the Yreka City Council meeting. All rise and say in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All righty. This is great. I love seeing a full house for a change. Wish everybody would come all the time like this. Make our job a lot easier. We had closed session. There's no reportable action at that session. So we are going to move on now to public comments. If we could have Brian Favreau, I think you have something you want to talk about on public comments. I'd have Brian from the Elks step forward, please. Come to the podium.
Well, good evening, City Council and the folks that run the city over here, the manager and the attorney. My name is Brian Favreau, and I'm with the Yreka Elks organization. And by hook or by crook, we were asked to take upon our shoulders putting out the holiday Christmas parade this year. And it turns out that we've got a couple of Elks up here and they thought it would be a grand idea. Well, I thought it was too, especially when it turned out that Mark was going to be taking over the whole thing. So Mark Dean, that is. I thought it would be one of these cakewalks because he'd done 22 of these particular parades while he was still with the Chamber of Commerce. And I told him I would fly his wing gladly, right? Well, it turned out that he had a little bit of a surprise medical, and next thing you know, he was in surgery and I was going solo, so to speak. Well, it turned out to be a wonderful, wonderful event. It truly did. The night before the event started, Friday night, I went to bed with 14 entrants that had signed up. And by the time we stepped off at 11 a.m., we had 43 people that were willing to get into the parade. Yeah, so that's a big hand for the city. It really is. And yes, I did have butterflies. I knew that I not only was representing the city with wanting to do something constructive with the parade, but I also felt that I was representing the Elks organization. And the last thing I ever want to do is fall on my sword as an elk, to say the least. So I guess the big thing to do here is to talk about some of the details. The very first thing I need to let you guys know is how wonderful it was working with the city manager and the city council and all of the public works people. Oh, hello there. Come on in. The public works, every time I picked up a phone and needed an answer, I got an answer. I'll tell you what. So praise for the city organization and the fellows that put all the barriers up and helped me hang the banners and all that. I just can't say enough how much I really, really appreciated that. And as a matter of fact, I've done a few other things of this nature. And for the first time in my life, we were putting together a car show or an air show. I felt like the people I was leaning on and asking information with actually wanted us to succeed. Right. So that was very refreshing, to say the least. No. When we kicked off, everyone who came as an entrant had a ribbon to say, yes, I was in the parade. And we gave out 12 trophies, 11 first place, and 1 sweepstakes. Sweepstakes would be also judges option, judges prize, that sort of thing. And some of the people actually came back to the city lot here and got their trophies handed to them personally. I've had to run down 2 people that couldn't make it, but we finally got them all passed out. Cliff's Trophies did a wonderful job. in terms of putting all that together. And golly sake, Roger Abbott really pulled some rabbits out of hats with the banners. I don't know if you guys saw the banners in front of the stage, a big 8-foot banner, and then the signature Christmas holiday banner, as well as banners that we put along the cyclone fences here, delineating where the military would form up, where the horse people would form up, where the marching bands would form up, and that sort of thing. We wanted to show the people of town that we really wanted to do a daytime parade again, instead of only a night of lights, nighttime parade. When we went back to the nighttime parade years ago, we felt that we lost horses, marching bands, and old cars. And all of those things came out nicely on this last go around. So we were really pleased about that. Let's see. I think that the bottom line is, if you've ever done one of these parades, you'll know all the ins and outs and the pitfalls. And I guess anybody in this room is capable of doing it. Whether or not you've got the motivation is another thing. But as an elk, I would have to say that if we have earned the right by putting this on, and anybody would like to have us perhaps, hi there, come on in. Like I said, if I do believe that we've earned the right to perhaps be asked to do it again, if that's in the cards. It's not my decision. If we are, I have to take it to the lodge floor and it has to be voted upon. But it was a very rewarding experience. But the best part of it all was working with Public Works and the city. They really helped us out a lot. Okay, so thank you very much for listening, and I hope you at least some of you got to see the parade. One last comment. I promised everybody in the budget that if you were a volunteer with this program, you could come to the lodge and have 2 free drinks on the house. So they took me at my word and they showed up for their 2 drinks. But you know, the best part about it was another elk who was not involved in the parade came in and saw what was going on and she picked up the tab.
All right on.
Yeah. All right. Thank you.
Oh, we just want to thank you, Brian.
You're welcome.
It was great. It was a great event.
Thank you.
We really appreciate, I really appreciate it personally because I didn't have to put it on. So
Yeah.
that's even better yet. So no, it was great. It was good turnout. I got to actually ride in a float this time, first time ever.
Mhm.
So that was a cool thing to be able to do that. And it was, everything was orchestrated really well and everything went just perfect. So
Great.
thank you.
Thank you.
And this is Jason Ledbetter, city manager. Is this on?
Yep.
Brian, I will be in touch with you about next year's event.
There you go.
I think we all will. Great.
And then, Mr. Mayor, we do have public comment online.
Yes, yes. In fact, I need to reiterate some of the public comment as far as what our protocol is there too. This is a public participation is welcome, invited by city council meetings. Time is reserved at each regular meeting for those in the audience who wish to address the city council. The city requests that the persons addressing the city council refrain from making personal, slanderous, profane, or disruptive remarks. Council members, when recognized by the mayor, may ask questions of the presenter, but no action may be taken by the city council during the public comment section of this meeting. Under the Brown Act, the city council is prohibited in discussing or taking action on any item not listed and posted on the agenda. If you're here, please speak from the podium, microphone, and please list your name if you do wish so. I would say, I guess we have somebody in the, I know a couple people in the audience, but there's somebody up on the Zoom, you said?
That's correct.
Got somebody up, hands up, go for it, whoever's on the phone.
Hello,
Hello, we can hear you. Might identify yourself?
this is Sharon Barney. I would just like to say a few words. 2 months ago, I wrote letters and emailed them to each of the council members regarding a couple of homeless situations that I had personally. The only one that ever got back to me was Deborah Beard. Thank you, Deborah. The rest of you, I guess you didn't read them. Maybe you didn't care. I don't know. But it was regarding getting up one morning and finding a woman asleep on my glider bench on my front porch at 5 a.m. Definitely under the influence. She was being very vocal, and we had to call the police. No problem there. They came right out, removed her. Another incident was at grocery outlet. When I went to put groceries in my car, there was somebody totally under the influence crawling around on the ground, yelling at a couple of other homeless people sitting up against the building. Once again, I had to call the police. They showed up, removed the person. I've lived in this town since 1985, and I have never been afraid to be out and about by myself. At one point in my career, I worked for an agency where I would have to go out and pick up moms and children and bring them into a shelter. Never was afraid to be out at 2 o'clock in the morning or whatever time it needed to be. Now I'm afraid to walk our streets during the day. And I think it's an absolute shame that the city is not doing more. I don't want to hear call the police. Their hands are tied. They can only enforce the laws. And the laws that are passed by people other than me, for sure. And I think our city council could do more to protect its citizens. Thank you for listening to me.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Jason, is there any way we can get a hold of that gal, maybe you and I get a chance? Get a hold of Sharon? And have a meeting?
Yeah, I think if we can have the assistant city manager possibly get some contact information, we can do that.
Okay, thank you. Okay. We have some other public comments at this point in time? Yes.
Yeah, my name is Steve Radford, 409 Evergreen. I'm here to speak on behalf of my friend Bill Smith. He's took on this gigantic project of moving the courthouse, the houses that were there before the courthouse, and to move them up to a lot and rebuild them and put them into position for resale.
Yes, I'm allowed, sorry, excuse me. We have some questions on that, just so the public knows. We do this, there is the topic on that tonight, but I've already spoke with Stephen about him because he can't make the meeting. So he's given up his 5 minutes later to do it right now. So
Thank you. Yeah, I do have to get to another meeting right away. But I do want to speak on this because it's important to me as a builder, as a person who wants to support another contractor, of course, but also for the city that, you know, I would rather see nice old homes being rebuilt than torn down and thrashed. And, you know, especially with some of the things that were in those homes, the cabinetry, the original woodwork and all of that. Bill's doing a fantastic job on the one house that he is restoring. So he has, you know, he has the capacity to do what he needs to do. He just, the time strains have just been overwhelming for him. And with the economy and COVID and everything, it set everybody back. We're all backwards right now. So I would like to give I would like you to consider the leniency on Bill and this $24,000 thing that you're pushing, or the planning director is pushing. I don't know who exactly, these fines and penalties and fees and everything, and bring it back to the original 7 if you can. You know, I would appreciate that very much. I appreciate your time. Thank you.
thank you, Steve. All righty. Is there any other public comments at this point in time? What's that? You're off a bill. There'll be plenty of time to, at that topic when we bring that up here shortly, so. Yeah, we will be. We're not to that subject yet. This is still public comment section. Yeah. All righty. And if we could, please silence cell phones too. Thank you. All right, we will move on then to the consent agenda. All matters listed on the consent agenda are considered routine, non-controversial, and will be enacted by one motion unless the member of the council wishes to remove an item for discussion. A, approval ratification of payments issued from November 7th, 2022 through November 27th, 2022. Approval B, approval of minutes of regular meeting held on November 15th, 2022. C, approval of minutes of the special meeting held on November 17th, 2022 and November 23rd, 2022. Approval of resolution 2021-51 accepting the canvas of the results, let's spit it out, of November 8th, 2022 was election. E, continuation of urgency ordinance number 864 fireworks. F, continuation of urgency resolution number 2021-51 remote public hearings. And G, waive full text reading of all ordinance on the agenda. Ordinance shall be introduced and adopted by title only. Whoever wants to talk about this, we can make them repeat all that too. Anyways, is there any questions by the council at this point in time? Okay, well, I'm going to open it up to the public and the audience. Is there any questions on the consent agenda? We'll close it to the public and open it back up to the council. Yes, sir.
I'd like to make a motion.
All righty. Go ahead,
This
Mr.
is
McCoy.
Councilman McCoy. I'd like to make a motion to adopt the consent agenda of the city council of the city of Yreka as presented this evening.
Council Middleton, I will second the motion.
I do have a motion and a second. I will do roll call. Joan Smith Freeman. Aye. Paul McCoy.
Aye.
Corey Middleton.
Aye.
Debbie Barrett. Aye. And I, Dwayne Kay. Right, we will move on now to old business. City council is being asked to make recommendations for mayor appointment to the 2 seats on the planning commission. Applications are being considered. Let me read a little bit there. The council meeting, we just want to thank everybody for coming and everybody for participating in this. The city council meeting, November 15th, the council interviewed applicants for 2 seats on the planning commission. The applicants were Dawn Marie Autry, Louise Gliotto, Ann Olin, and Marley Billingsley. Let me start by saying I'm grateful to have all these qualified applicants and appreciate their willingness to serve this today. Tonight, I'm asking the council and colleagues to give me their 2 candidates. And once I hear from you, then our city manager, Jason Ledbetter, will be keeping track of the choices and I will give the final selection tonight. Does the council have any questions at this point in time before we move on? Then I will start around and start asking people. We will go to Mr. McCoy.
You want to?
Yes, please.
Don Marie Autry and Annie Oland. Excuse me, Ann Oland.
Mr. Mills.
I select Ann Olin and Marley Billingsley.
My two choices are, and I can call her Annie Owen. She's right on the podium right now because I've known her for what, 30 years. And find her to be very honorable and knowledgeable of this area, and Marley Billingsley.
Pro Tem Debbie Barrett.
I nominate Ken Olin and Louise Guiado.
Mr. Red there. So we have-
No, just need your selections and then
Yes. Yeah, that would be appropriate. This point in time, we like I said, we had a lot of good candidates and we're at that point, the ones that I would, choosing is, Annie Olin and, Marley Billingsley.
this is Jason Ledbetter, the city manager. So as it stands right now, after everybody's selections, I have Ann Oland with 5 and Marley Billingsley with 3. So they would take placement.
Those are the two choices that I think that pretty much picked up as a council. So thank you all for your input. Appreciate it. I think at the next planning commission meeting, is that what that'll be announced officially?
Yeah, I think actually at the next city council meeting, we will commemorate the outgoing planning commissioners, but our planning director may shed light on that.
Yes, thank you. So we do not have a December meeting. The meeting was canceled due to a lack of quorum, potentially because it is the same week as the holidays. But we will be doing a swearing in ceremony for our 2 new members at your next meeting on December 20th. And then they would take their seats at their first meeting in January, which is the 3rd Wednesday of the month. And then we will honor our 2 outgoing members, which is Richard Rolzinski and Matt Osborne.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, may we say thank you to the new
Oh,
members?
absolutely.
Thank you to the new commissioners and thank you to the ones that applied.
Yes, thank you. Yes, thank you. Like I
Thank
said,
you all.
thank you for everybody participating. We had a lot of, everybody was well qualified for this position. So it makes it challenging for our position to sit up here and try to do that because it's not an easy thing. It really isn't. Thank you all for participating. And we look forward to working with the new planning commissioners. Thank you. Awesome. All right, we'll move on to B, approval of the Yreka Peace Officers Association Memorandum of Understanding. And who do we have on that one?
We're gonna have Mr. Elsnab, your HR director.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. My name is John Elfand. I'm the HR director for the city. Tonight, I'd like to present the staff report on the resolution for the Yreka Peace Officers Association Memorandum of Understanding. So staff has been negotiating with the Yreka Peace Officers Association to reach an MOU, Memorandum of Understanding. The parties agreed on a 30-month term that addresses employee compensation for wages, health benefits, and certificate pays as follows. And I'm going to go over some highlights of the MOU that we discussed during bargaining. So first off, as far as the term, it's a 30-month term, ends July 5th, 2025. As far as wages, a 5% cost of living adjustment effective the first full pay period in January 2023, and a 4% cost of living adjustment effective the first full pay period in 2024. As far as medical premiums, the city's medical cap benefit will increase in plan years 23, 24, and 25. The medical benefit cap will be equivalent to 85% of the cost of PERS Gold. That's what we're increasing the cap to. We also made an adjustment to callback minimum. So if the officer is inconvenienced to come back after shift, we increased that from 2 to 3 hours per call out. We also looked at certificate pay and we increased post incentives for sworn officers. And premium pay, we made an adjustment to that for field training officers serving as a FTO, field training officer, and a dispatch training officer. And lastly, deferred comp, the city's deferred comp will increase from 1,500 to 1,750 in year 2023, and 2,000 in years 2020. In addition, the MOU went through extensive cleanup language and overhaul to update the language for accuracy and clarity, as well as CalPERS compliance. The estimated fiscal impact in dollars is approximately $357,000 $357,598.64 over the term of the contract. That's for health benefits and wages, as well as all the other premiums we talked about.
Thank you, John. Appreciate that. Does council have some questions for John or?
Term of the contract is 30 months.
Correct.
Thank you.
So this has been quite a process for all of us here at the council. I know it seems like it's a lot of money for a lot of people sitting out there, but with the cost of living and everything going up in today's world, it's not as big as people think it is. But we appreciate you guys doing all the bargaining, getting things handled. We're talking about this earlier, how long usually these bargaining things last, and it's usually lasts months and months and months and drags out. But our city staff and people have taken care of this and got it handled in a timely manner. So thank you.
Thank you.
If there's any other questions by the council, I'm going to open it up to the public. Thank you. This is the time for the public to ask any questions in regards to this. Is there anybody from the public has any questions, comments, concerns? All right. And then I will close it to the public. See a hand up there.
It's
just
been up for a while.
still the same one.
There's another one.
I think it's a different one. Looking at somebody's.
We have somebody in the phone.
Greta is sharing.
Is there somebody there, Retta? That's it. It's down. Okay. Well, then we will close it to the public then and bring it back to the council. What is the council's wishes? Yes, James.
I'd like to make a motion to adopt resolution number 2022-52 of the City Council of the City of Yreka, approving the execution of the memorandum of understanding between the City of Yreka and the Yreka Peace Officers Association.
Motion.
I'll second, Debbie Baird.
Right. Roll call. Joan Smith Freeman,
Aye.
Paul McCoy,
Aye.
Corey Middleton.
Aye.
Debbie Baird.
Aye.
And I, Dwayne K. Awesome. Thank you, John.
Thank you.
Good job.
Alrighty. We will move on to C, agenda title, fee waiver request of development impact fees for owners investment property. This is owner investment willing to enter the waiver agreement of April 2017 is secured by real property that is delinquent and now subject to current development fee rates, interest and penalties. Owner is seeking payment relief. And we have. You gotta drop it down. Boy, thank you.
Should have wore heels if I was gonna follow him. Good evening, council. Emily Aldrich, Finance Director. Discussion possible action regarding the request for a fee waiver from Mr. and Mrs. Schmidt. Mr. and Mrs. Schmidt entered into a development impact deferral agreement April 4th of 2017 in the amount of $6,994.42, which at the time represented 50% of the current development impact fees for the property.
Can I ask you, stop, Brett? Do we know where that music's coming from? Is there a way we can turn that music off?
Oh, maybe it's mine. No.
I don't. Are you here?
Yeah, you can hear it over.
I'm
here as
deaf, so
well.
I don't hear it.
It's very,
Is it online? Are they?
I don't know. Very
Probably
disconcerting.
online.
Sorry.
Maybe,
Sorry,
it's-
Emily.
maybe it is my heartbeat. I don't know. There's a lot of people in here.
Yeah, I got it. I'm sorry.
That's
ahead.
okay.
Proceed.
Then there's just a brief description of where exactly this location is. The agreement stipulated that the amount was due payable in full within 1 year of the effective date of the agreement. In the event that the diff was not paid timely per the agreement, the amount of the diffs shall be determined in accordance with the development impact fee schedule in effect when the diffs are actually paid, or the schedule in effect at the end of the deferral period as set forth in the Yreka Municipal Code, Chapter 11, 2.23, whichever amount is greater. This agreement and deed of trust have been recorded against the property in the office of the Siskiyou County Recorder and constitutes a lien for the payment. Mr. Schmidt is requesting council honor the $6,994.43. Again, 50% of the 2017 diff. Current amount owed as of the original date of this agenda item, November 15th, 2022, is $22,442.66, which includes the fees plus interest and penalties as per the agreement that was filed. Staff recommends that the note stays in place and and will be satisfied upon the sale of the property, or Mr. and Mrs. Schmidt pay the amount in full.
Council have some questions before I open it up to the public, and I'm sure Mr. Schmidt would like to talk a little bit too. No questions? All right, well then I will open up to the public. Yes, sir. Yes, we're gonna hold it to 5 minutes, just so everybody knows. Mr. Ledbetter will be timing.
5 for Mr. Schmidt, too.
We'll keep it as minimal as possible, but Mr. Schmidt can have a little bit more time. Yes, since it's his own time, yes, please.
Well, I'm basically asking the council for help on the,
Can you raise the mic up?
Yeah,
Oh,
Can you raise the mic up?
the table, yeah. Too short.
there he should get it for you.
Short up for you.
There you
There you go.
Okay, there you go. Thank you. Thank you. Now I can hear you.
All right, there you go, Bill.
I'm essentially
Yours.
helping, asking the council for help on my 502 Sherman property. The project I'm doing. I earned an agreement with the county, with the city for the 7,000 back when I was taking the permit out. And at that time, we agreed upon it could be paid through escrow because I've been doing this on a shoestring. I've been doing most all the work myself, and I've been pushing at it pretty hard. And I'm asking the city council to drop that, I had the 21,000, 22,000, that back to the 7,000. So I can have it, so I can get it paid. That's what I'm asking.
Thank you, Bill.
You said there were asked questions. You said it. You can ask Mr. Schmidt a question.
Oh, absolutely, yes. Yeah, you guys, well, let's wait till we get the public comment and I'll open it back up.
No,
It's now to you.
Okay.
This is Jason Ledbetter, city manager, and I just want to read in to the record public comment from Brian Foster. I know everybody got that email, but I just want to read that in. And this is an ex-council member, so forgive me. These are not my words, but happy holidays to all from me and my family here in North Idaho, where we currently call home. Even though we no longer live in Yreka and it's been a while since I've been on city council, I still take an interest in the issues that concern the city, which I called home for 20 years. With this in mind, I feel the need to chime in and hopefully give some clarity to the agreement the city entered into with Bill Schmidt regarding the homes that are now up behind Gold Street School. Several years ago, I think it was 2015, the state was on a mission in pushing forward with the planning of the new courthouse. Obviously, part of this included the land acquisition for the building site. On this building site, there sat several homes that many residents considered to be historic, myself among them. One of these homes even belonged to former city council member Dusty Veal. So in order to build the new courthouse, something had to be done with these homes. The obvious solution was to just burn them for firefighter practice or just bulldoze them and haul them to the dump. But with the historic aspect in mind, many people were pressuring the city and the council to come up with a solution to save the homes. As the city tried to come up with the solution, pressure started coming from the state to deal with these properties and get these houses removed so that the project can move forward. As certain deadlines approached, the city and the council still had this problem. Enter Bill Schmidt and his interest in acquiring these homes. Oddly enough, Bill had the means and the know-how to actually relocate these houses and even had property within the city limits to move them to. Anybody who's ever met or worked with Bill knows that he is quite the character and really just does things his own way. Unfortunately, that doesn't always make him the easiest person to work with, but that's Bill. And at the time, Bill was the only one to step forward with a decent solution to this dilemma. So we came up with an agreement with the deadline and general consequences for not meeting the deadline in relation to the overall scope of work that Bill was going to do. In the end, a few of the houses got relocated and the rest were torn down and life went on. So fast forward to today, as we all kind of figured I'm assuming would happen back then. Bill has moved at his own pace and is well behind schedule as per the agreement that we entered with him back then. As such, he has incurred fines and pressure from the city, but the deal is a deal, or is it? I think in this particular case, it might be best just to focus on what the spirit of the agreement was rather than focus on the punishment that should be incurred. I agree, Bill is Bill, but at that time, Bill was a problem solver for the city and for many residents who loved those houses and could not stand to see them destroyed just for the sake of the new modern courthouse. Most of us knew Bill could get the job done and get the houses moved. We also knew he would eventually get them set on foundations and his projects completed. As time goes on and as Bill gets older, the project is slowing down. I, for one, am happy that an attempt to save the houses was made at all. Now the goal is to see that these projects are completed and Bill needs help. Now, again, a deal is a deal, but I also believe there's room for leniency in regards to fees and fines incurred by going past the projected completion dates or even progress dates. Now, the council can't do anything about building codes and requirements in that regard, but the council can definitely do something about impact fees and the like and help this man get his project across the finish line. I, for one, would love to come back and see those houses standing with families living in them. Seeing something like that would almost make me prouder than being involved with the new police station or the deals made for the new water system upgrades. So with all this in mind, all I ask is that you guys keep the spirit of the agreement regarding these homes in mind when you guys try and figure out how to move forward. And also remember, there's nothing wrong with giving a little grace. Take care, my friends, and I'll always be watching. Sincerely, Brian Foster. And once again, thanks. Those, I just want to clarify, you can boo and hiss me here in a minute. Those are not my words. I am the city manager and, I am bringing forward this item with staff recommendation. So thank you.
Thank you. Okay, anybody else? I'm sure there's lots of public comments.
Okay, my name is Brian Young. I'm an iron worker, journeyman master. Been in my trade 42 years, heavy construction, light construction, and construction that people don't like, working prisons. I could tell you that Bill, working with that and the conditions it is tough as a builder. I'll give you 2 projects in this town. Ash Creek Bridge. You know how many years it took Ash Creek Bridge? 3. Ash Creek Bridge is a 1-year project. The Klamath Bridge that they just finished, got that in 2, much bigger bridge, but it took 3. There's $1 million company doing that job, couldn't do it on time. I'm going to pick on a sore spot here. Got the credit union. Took a long time. I got a project done down in LA quicker, but yet it prevailed. It did it. What I'm asking the city council to do is have forbearance on this man. We want to work together as a town. You know, when you go before a jury trial and they say, do you know this person? Well, heck yeah, I know that, bro. You can't be on the trial. We all know each other. I know the new people coming in. I see many people here that probably want to take me out too. But anyway, I would ask your kindness, your forbearance, and leave the fees as is. We're meeting the finish line. We're coming right down to it. When Bill hires me to help him, he's reaching the bottom. I'm old. I'm almost 70 years old. I am the oldest one on my job site. Wherever I go, I'm the white guy and I'm the old guy. And that's it. But anyway, please have consideration on him. We're that close to finishing this project. Let's finish it together as a family in a town. Thank you, sir.
Hello, city council members. I'm Daniel Simon. I live here in Yreka. And I want to compliment Paul for helping with the homeless and or personally at the shelter. And Dwayne, I know you've done a lot of work too with the homeless, and obviously another house getting erected in town is helping to solve the housing crisis, of course. So yeah, I've been the engineer for Bill, and yeah, a little cranky sometimes, but we get through it, you know. He's really direct, get things done kind of guy. Okay. And I've seen that with other contractors too. That's just kind of the nature of the business. So I was there in the beginning when the pink house was Eric Bergstrom's law office. If you remember, I just called it the pink house on the plans, you know, on little notes, I'd have the pink house because there was the white house he moved. And it's so amazing to see a contractor move a house. How do they do that? It's absolutely amazing. And I was kind of teasing one day. I said, you know, you get these houses lined up and then you get going, you know, you get 3 houses you're trying to move. Why don't you get a parade, call the fire department, have their trucks, you know, have a marching band. But he got it done. He moved. Okay. I was involved in the beam design, the proper location so that it would get there. I've also helped design the foundation, as well as helped him pour concrete for the foundation just for kicks and curb and gutter, which he's really close to getting done, by the way, on that specific house and the sidewalks. Now, of course, the city would want to, I mean, Bill, I liked his approach. His approach is, hey, can you help me out here? Can we go back to what we had? I know the time's expired, blah, blah, blah. A little bit of grace here. The city would have to find a specific reason why an exception would happen here. Okay. But how many people do you know have actually moved a house? You have to have a very specific reason, you know. Because if everybody and their brother is asking for reduced fees, that will put you in a pickle. But I think there's a specific reason why the city can grant this request, is that it's a very unique situation because that house was there a long time ago. And I'm going to guess that impact fees, because this is standard construction practice when you get your permits and all, but I'm going to believe that at the time the pink house was constructed, was erected on that initial site, that there are already impact fees already paid. It's certainly a lot less than what it is today. But that could be a very specific reason why the city could grant Bill his lower fees in its uniqueness. So with that, I encourage the city council to allow the $7,000 to stand. So
Thank you, Daniel.
My name is Sherry Bennett. I live in Yreka. My property backs up to Hill Street, and Sherman, which is where Bill has been working for several years on his home. And I've watched the process. And I personally would ask you to please grant him of the initial agreed to fees. He's done an amazing job by himself, 90% of this. He moved these 2 houses, several houses. There's another one in parts sitting down the road from this one. But, you know, and it's a historical house. Dr. Schlappy used to live in the pink house, as it was referred to years ago. Delivered your mother or you. They delivered him. So there is history here. And I just feel that, as he said, impact fees have already been paid on when the house was initially built. Give the guy a break. He's trying to do something good for the community instead of building a subdivision, which apparently it's been classified as now at this point in time. It's not a subdivision, and nobody's going to build on it. Doesn't have sewer, it doesn't have water, it doesn't have power in between these 2 lots. So, you know, just be kind. get your money somewhere else instead of from someone that's really, really worked hard. We've had COVID, we've had all of these issues going on for this span of time. And yes, he may be late, but he's working, he's continually working on it. So I would appreciate your consideration.
Thank you.
Good evening, city council members. My name is Lenita Ramos. I am a real estate broker. I have been working with Bill. I know Bill for 16 years and I have been working with him for quite a while now. I see what he has done for that house and he's keeping everything original. He doesn't want to change much. He want to keep the character of the property. And I would really appreciate you all considering keeping the original fees. I know the time is been gone a long time ago, but I would like you all to consider keeping the 7,000 so he can have his finances in order to be able to finish. I almost stepped outside of my car today on my heels and helping him pour concrete. So please help him to help the city to have another house. We have buyers ready to move in when we have the house ready, but we need to have the house ready and Bill needs money to finish. Please consider. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, do we have anybody else that would like to make some comments?
Council members, my name is Gage Kimball. I also live right across the street from where this property's taken place. Been there since they moved it. He's doing a good job, but I think if he shouldn't have, how would I put this? Sorry. He shouldn't have entered the agreement if he didn't have the means to pay for and complete this house in a timely manner. I've seen it for the last 5 years. Some questionable things, in my opinion, have been done. And I believe that he should be liable for the agreement that he entered. And if you're gonna discount his amount due, then that should be across the board to everyone in this county or in the city, just as fair. You give it to one, you give it to all. I'm not asking for anything, just saying that that's my opinion. So thank you.
Thank you.
You want to shut him down? Dwayne,
What's that?
you want to shut him down? He's badgering.
All right, any other public comments? On behalf of the bill?
Can we not have them talking to people that are at the stand and going back and forth? Otherwise, if they, so they can
Come down to the podium.
Yeah, come down or they can leave.
Like the questions that's asked.
Evening, council members,
Yeah.
Mr. Ledbetter, Mr. Attorney, Jerry Stalker. There's a lot of complexities when it comes to contracts and the construction end of what you folks are discussing. One of the difficulties is, I don't know how you're gonna go with this, but if you can't waive the fees because of obligations that you would have to every single person that had fees involved with construction, there's always the option to raise private funds to cover the cost of those fees. So there's a whole lot of people in here, I think, that could pitch in a little bit if that's the way we have to go.
Thank you. All right, any other comments? I'll bring it back to the council if not. Oh, one more.
Hi, I'm Tasha. I work with Lenita and I actually just have come an acquaintance with Bill and manages properties and stuff like that. And so hard worker, you know, honest and doing, you know, trying to do what's right. And I would just like to say, you know, who hasn't been late on a bill ever? You know, we all have, and things just happen and that's the way that it is. And Yreka, you know, I mean, it's a town, we gotta grow together and come together. I mean, and it's, like this gentleman said, we can raise money and help out. But I mean, everyone's been laid on a bill, cut them some slack. And if you're gonna argue it and bitch about it, someone come up with a solution to fix it, not just complain about it. Somebody who can't make his bills, because that's everyone. So, you know what, be cool, adhere to the first agreement. I mean, and that's says more than for everyone's character than anything else. So.
Great, thank you.
Hello, my name is Yreka Gutierrez, and as I recall, when this started, Mr. Schmidt had, when he agreed to move the house at the very beginning, it was a long process. The house sat for empty for a long time before he could move forward. There was damage done, water in the basements, which was, and so as I remember, and this is just my memory, as I remember it, the process for him to originally that was agreed upon, it was a long time before he actually was able to move the house. It wasn't an immediate thing as it was originally agreed upon. And so to me, there seems like a little bit of a balance here. Yes, he did move the house and saved it for the city and for our community. But at that time, he also waited. And it wasn't, there was an agreement there too that wasn't met and that was strung along. So I just like that to be taken into consideration as well.
Great, thank you.
Right, any other comments at this time? Not, I'm gonna bring it back to the council. I think the council has some questions too. Right, I'm bringing it back to the council then. Mr. Middleton, I know you expressed having some questions.
Mr. Smith, can you come back down to the podium, please?
Could you come down?
Mr. Smith,
To the bill?
good evening. Thank you. Councilman Middleton. When you took on the project, did you have the financial means and the ability to complete the project? When you looked at it, you knew it was going to be a big task. And it's been 7 years since you started the project. When you looked at it, obviously it was a big task. And you felt that you could move forward to complete the project, to bring back these homes to maybe better than they were when you received them. But for several years, we've been getting complaints since I've been sitting for 2 years that these dilapidated homes have been sitting up there as an eyesore. And I get you have your friends here, and I get, but it's been quite a while. And I didn't see any work on those homes, at least one, started until maybe 2 years ago, 18 months ago, correct me if I'm wrong. The one home that's almost finished now, but they've been in poor condition and it's been going on for several years. Had it been, I guess, you come to us a year or 2 years later and say, this is beyond more than I thought. Doesn't take me some more time. Can I renegotiate the contract? We worked with it, but we're 7 years now and having this look terrible. But you took on the responsibility to get it done, to make it better, to have the funds to do it. And now I don't know if you're coming to us saying, I don't have the funds to complete it, that the 24,000 is going to hurt me and I'm not going to finish the project. So if you can kind of enlighten me on that, on why, if we do not go back to the original 6,000, if the 24,000 is going to stop you from completing the project.
Well, to start off with, when I first made the agreement, I sat down with Baker, Bray. I think Joan Smith was there. When I sat down with them, and we come to an agreement that the improvements were on a per parcel basis. I didn't get it in writing, so it's no good. That meant that I could do the work on one parcel and I could sell it, and get a occupancy permit. In other words, the final on the building, and I could sell that parcel, spell that building. That is no longer there. It's not being honored. I didn't get it in writing, whatever, so, right? It's,
Yeah, and since this is a clarifying questions from Council Member Middleton, I'll give my understanding is essentially what happened is that Mr. Schmidt hired an engineer who created a site plan. And that site plan was not split, but was submitted to us for the Hill Street and Sherman Street as one project. And that went through review at the city and was approved. And once that happens, unfortunately, and to members of the public, I'll just let you know, we don't just have you come in and just make changes on your paperwork after an engineer designs it, and then we review it over the course of 6 weeks. It's pretty thorough review period. And so that is what Mr. Schmidt is saying, is that ultimately he felt like he had some conversations, even though he did submit with his engineer one project. And so I think Mr. Schmidt's intent at one point, especially discussing this project with me, was complete Sherman as one street, complete the improvements in front of Sherman, sell Sherman, take the proceeds, pay off the city, and then go work on another project. Is that roughly accurate? So.
yeah, and when we made that agreement, we made the agreement that I could pay this fee, the 7,000, through escrow when I sold the property. And at the time, I told him, well, these time limits, I'm working on by myself. I got the ability to do it. I've already proved that. I'm putting in your curbs and gutters and sidewalks right now in the middle of the winter. And we poured 38 feet of curb and gutter today on the corner, that the arc, which is the hardest thing to do. It's in, okay. I got all the curb and gutter and sidewalks are in on Hill Street and Sherman on that property. I'm making progress on it. Yes, back when I first took on the project, yeah, it was a big project. I knew it. I knew I could do it. It was going to take time. And the financing, I went and got a loan. I've been working it. I figured on doing Sherman, getting it done. Then I could have money to work on the other. But now I've got to do all the sidewalk, curbs and gutters on Sherman, Hill Street, and also build a retaining pond, which is a 80-foot, 2-foot dike for stormwater. Which was all, so yeah, I'm stressed for money. I'm stressed financially to keep the project going. I'm going to get it finished. One way or the other, I want to finish these houses.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Schmidt, this is Councilman McCoy. When did you when did you initially move this property? This house, these two houses over onto that Correa property there?
2017, 2018, somewhere out in there.
Okay.
It was around Christmas time.
And at that time, what was your intention with the houses? Was it to build one house? I just want to be clear, build one house, then do the other?
Yes.
And what was the time?
Build one house, and then finish it, and move to the next.
And what was the time frame on the first build? What was your time frame?
Didn't really have one because I knew I was doing the work by myself, and I've been on it quite regular. I mean, pretty heavily. The neighbors can contest to that. My pickup's been there. I've been working just about every day.
Well, I
There's
think you've
days
been,
that I didn't, but yeah.
you've been admirably working every day. Unfortunately, it wasn't for the first 5 years. It's only been for about the last 6 months. But yes,
No,
you've been admirably working there every day. I have to tell you that I have complaints from people on Oak, Cedar, and Hilltop, and have since I came on council, and I've been on just over 4 years, that people have called me or contacted me, or on my walks, they'll say something, and their concern is that it's just not getting done. What is your ETA for finishing the pink house? What's the date that you want to ask for certificate of occupancy?
Okay. A few months ago, when I was thinking I could just do the sidewalks and curbs and gutter for that house and do the inside and get done, it was January or February. Now, since I've got to
January, February of what year?
this coming January.
2023, okay.
Right, but with the addition of having to do all the curbs and gutters on Hill Street, on Sherman, Hill Street, the property down below where the White House will go, well, I think about White House going, and the retention pond, that has been scooted out. Because I've got to get that done. I'm pouring concrete here in the middle of winter. I tried to get going earlier, but it took time to coordinate with the city to get going.
So you're gonna go ahead and pour sidewalk and curb and gutter all the way down to the
No,
down the. Okay, let me go back then. You said you were going to pour it around Sherman, and then it's gonna hold you up because you're gonna pour it downhill and put in the retention
Okay.
pond. So correct me here.
the parcel map I took the parcel, divided into 3 parcels and a remainder. We've got 2 parcels on Sherman. You got the corner and one south of it. And then the 3rd parcel is down next to the wood fence on Hill Street.
Next to the Correa house. Okay,
Okay.
thank you.
They're 71, 75 feet, something like that, width of that parcel. I've got to do the curb and gutter, bring the water in, extend the sewer line out, and all that on that parcel down there too, and then do the retention pond down by the school before I can get occupancy on the 502 Sherman.
Okay.
So I'm trying to get that done. When I get that done, I go back inside the house and finish the restoration there.
Okay, and then I appreciate that, and it is a lot of work, and I know you're pouring in cold weather, because I know they're pouring all the sidewalks down here for the city and Caltrans in cold weather right now, sidewalks and curbs and gutters and everything, and they're getting ready to pour concrete highway down here in front of Rayleigh's in about a week, I think, week to 2 weeks, they're gonna pour just tons, hundreds of tons. Of
Yeah,
concrete.
it's the wrong time of year to be doing concrete.
Yeah.
but
Yeah,
I'm doing it.
unfortunately, yeah. I poured a driveway 2 years ago at this time, and it was cold and it was very, very difficult. This is for my edification. I'm just trying to understand. Are you then also putting a retaining wall in behind the lots, in between Gold Street and, the school, the soccer field?
No,
and
not
the
a
lots?
retaining wall, a retention pond.
Okay.
It's
Yeah.
gonna be I think 70 or 80 feet long. The footings, 2 foot wide. Under the height of the concrete will be 2 foot. And it's got a big V in the center. So the water will come in and run out.
So it's gonna go to the bottom, right near the soccer fields.
Yeah, it's down in the bottom there where
Okay,
the
Gotcha.
the church has a bunch of wood and stuff stored there right now.
No, that wood's, a lot of that wood's been there since I was principal there, and I've been retired from that school 10 years.
Well,
It was out there, so.
the the church that has the school rented or whatever.
Yeah.
They're storing some material there. They're gonna have to move that, but that's about where that retention pond's going.
Okay. And they have your permission to store it there?
Yeah, I told them,
Okay.
I mean, they needed a place to store it. It's not hurting anything until I need to build that.
Okay.
And
I
I'll be
appreciate it.
neighborly with them.
Yeah, and I do appreciate your time. It's, you made a comment, you were doing it on a shoestring when you first spoke. When you talked about the $7,000, it's now gone into the $20,000 range. And then I heard you say something, I heard something about a credit union and something about a loan. So did you have a construction loan? Did you get a construction loan from the credit union?
No, I didn't.
Okay, so,
He was talking about the lapse of time that the credit union took to get built. That's what Steve was talking about.
okay. So did you take out any kind of, you didn't take any loan in order to build this?
Yes, I did.
Okay. And I know costs have gone up.
I've mortgaged two rent houses to do this project.
Uh-huh. And has there ever been the thought of having somebody in to come in and help you finish the inside as well as the outside?
Well, yes, I have, but let's put it this way. If I hire a guy for $10 an hour, for an example,
Mhm.
you can't, I mean, now that's below minimum wage, but
Yeah,
okay,
just, you're not gonna get me
but-
for under 20.
it takes 30 out of my pocket to do that.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
When I'm low on funds.
Okay.
I get doing the next thing, working on it as hard as fast as I can.
I'm gonna just ask you a couple more questions because I want you to see where, just kind of where we are. Do you think it's fair for us? Do you think it's fair for the neighbors around you that are not happy with the building and the way the lots look and the houses have looked for the last 5.5 years? Do you think that's fair to them and their property values? I'm just curious. Well, in other words, would you stand for that around if you own, a house that you lived in right there, would it be something that you would look at?
If I had that big of a complaint to him, I'd go over, ask him, how can I help you?
Okay,
And start helping him.
and then,
That's what I would do.
okay.
But then again,
But they don't all have your talent. They don't all have we're not all talented with
yeah,
construction. I mean that sincerely.
right,
We don't have it.
But
The
then
outside of the
again-
house looks wonderful.
yeah, thank you.
So, then the last question I have is it fair for the city to pay? In essence, what we're doing is we're gonna be paying the 24,000 minus 7,000, so I say $17,000 in diff fees and that sort of thing. Is it fair for us to do that for you, but then not do it for Tom McCullough, not do it for Steve Young, not do it for, any other builder that might be in here? Is it fair, number one, for us to do that? And is it fair to the Yreka city taxpayers who are the ones that are paying that difference in fees? I'm just, again,
Okay.
I'm asking you to see it from the city side of it. Is that a fair thing to do to other taxpayers, to charge them for your fees? And if we do it for you, where does it stop?
Okay, let's put it this way. All right, those houses were built in the 50s.
Mhm.
Like Steve said. The impact fees had already been paid or something back then.
Mhm.
Okay, your impact fees are like the school fees, right? A one-time fee. Right? When you get a building permit, it's a one-time fee.
No, if you add anything onto your home in the state of California, you pay, there are developer fees that go to the
Right.
schools.
They're just like the school fees, right?
So it's not a one-time, no, it would be, you're gonna pay for that addition.
Well, you got the same thing with the schools. In other words, you get a building permit out, you pay a fee for the schools.
Mhm.
Okay, the schools have waived the fee. The elementary school and the high school said, no, that's already been paid on that house.
And you have paperwork that shows this.
Yes,
And who's that paperwork from? Who's it signed by?
the office you go into to get the fee, to go in and have it. Right there at the Union uh, uh, office.
I was an educator for 30 years, Mr. Schmidt. Never once in any district I worked in, including 23 years in Yreka Union Elementary, did we ever say to anybody, we're gonna waive, we're waiving your fees. Nobody came to us to ask to waive the fees. They went to the county, but we didn't, those fees are what schools survive on. in
Those
California.
fees were waived here.
Okay.
I don't have the paperwork with me, but yes, they were waived.
Okay,
They were waived on all three buildings, all three houses. The high school waived the one in Montague also because it's in the high school district.
yeah,
I had to pay the Montague school fee on the one I went to Montague. But they waived the school, the elementary and high school waived both of them because they were existing.
okay. So is
They
it?
did- The house is just basically moved address.
Is it fair for for the taxpayers to cover your $17,000? Is it fair for everybody in here that lives in Yreka to pay a portion? I'm just asking yes or no for of the $17,000 you're asking to be waived.
I think so,
Okay.
because was it
Okay.
fair for me to pay them when they already been paid earlier, like the school fee?
Well, we'd have to go back and look, and I'm gonna guess, having been in education 30 years, because what we call them were bedroom fees. And bedroom fees didn't come into vogue until about the 80s. So I'm gonna bet that most houses that were built before that had a much less substantial fee structure, because fees weren't collected for the houses. That came about as a result of Prop 13, when the people of California voted to keep their property taxes low. So, but I hear what you're saying. I do hear what
They
you're-
waived them.
Yeah.
They says they're already done.
And I want to thank you for coming, standing up, and I do like the outside of the house. It looks wonderful. And I actually have been in that house many times, but is there when we say historical significance? Is this something that, is it with the National Register of Historic Places? Does it have a brown sign that goes with it? Because I know it is an older house, like they have on
Not
Third
that I
Street.
know of, but a lot of
Okay.
people say, hey, that was Dr. Slappy's house. I mean, that's where they're putting the historical emphasis on.
Yeah. No, and I understand, just like Dr. Cleaver's house on Center Street and and the old hospital that Steve DeClaire has. So thank you, sir, very much for your time.
That's my question.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, thank you. Sorry, go ahead. You have some questions.
Actually, I'd like to hear from our city attorney regarding the history of this, anything that came in front of your desk for you to make a decision on, or were you involved in?
Well, I'm confident from looking at the agreement that I drafted that. I would think, and it's not part of this package, I wasn't consulted on it, that there's also a development agreement that went along with it. Anytime you are deferring improvements, it is, we have a special agreement for that and specific timetables for when certain work is supposed to be performed. So, and we know that when Mr. Schmidt originally came to the city council, I think most of you were on here, he had indicated that this was going to be a quick process and we were going to be saving some houses and he'd be making some money and without seeing the houses being demolished instead, and that he had the ability to do it, is my recollection. But I mean, you can see for yourself whether or not that has turned out to be the case.
Okay, my concern is that the city did enter this agreement with good faith, and I think you bit off a little more than you can handle, and it has been a long time in the process to get it even to this level of completion. And I do have concerns, and I'm a strong believer in equal rights and fair administration of the policy set forth. And that concerns me because I think
all of our other contractors in the audience deserve fair treatment and when we give partial treatment, and I mean for anybody, I really believe and I'll support to the end, making sure that everybody gets the same guidelines that they have to live with. But I did make, I did have one question. Since this project began, were there any additional, I think Juliana's gonna be the one for this. Since this project began, I'm sure you've done the history on this. Were there any other additional requirements from the state for finishing this project?
From the state, no, we do not have documentation of that.
Okay, so
yeah.
he would not incur any additional expense as a result of the delay.
In terms of, I guess I don't understand your question. Could you, you're asking that if is he incurring more money if he delays? Yes, he is currently
No.
incurring interest.
Did on the building of the project, whether it be land, sidewalks, any other requirements for completing his project, is there any difference between what we ask, we as in the city and the state, ask in the beginning when he presented his plans versus the end? Does that make sense?
I think I can answer that question. This is Jason Ledbetter, city manager, because we get into these theoretical philosophical conversations about retention pond and but the reality is that Mr. Schmidt hired an engineer, and an engineer, knowing state and local law, created a project. And Mr. Schmidt submitted that project to the city of Yreka when it went through a long review process. And that project was then approved. But upon approval, my time with Mr. Schmidt, he has come in and questioned his own plan set, which is baffling and confusing for myself and staff because it's not our plan set. It's his plan set. He submitted it. He's telling us, this is what I would like to do. This is what I will do. And it was approved by the city. So I think that was brought up earlier tonight. So no, there has been no added things to his plan set. There's been no changes from us. He has requested changes. And I think we're now on the same page where he understands we can't make those changes unless he incurs large costs to resubmit. And we can't guarantee that his project, if he were to split it, because he had talked about splitting his project, if he were to split it, then the state law may change based off of the size of the project. The retention pond in and of itself, the calculations become different. And so we are only working with what he submitted, and that is where we currently stand. Nothing has changed on our end. We have not changed the rules.
Thank you.
What about, can I add something just that you have? Retention pond, is that applicable back in 2017?
Yes, so that was MS4 compliance for the city. That was part of the tentative parcel map and part of that engineered design. So yes, yeah, that was part of that, and it's still the current same MS4 permit.
Okay, and one more question.
Go ahead. I'm sorry, I just wanted to clarify that.
I share. These actual fees won't be, you're waiting for the sale of the property, so they'll be paid at that time. It's not out of pocket for them currently, correct?
Well, I think what transpired here, it was kind of a deadline was set that I will pay roughly $7,000 on this date. And I would assume this, because this transcends most of the staff here tonight. So we weren't here for the beginning of this. So my assumption would be that Mr. Schmidt said, okay, that date works for me because I know my project will be done. The house will be sold. But since he did not meet that deadline, there is a lien that every single day compounds, I believe.
Correct. And the payment is due prior to the issuance of an occupancy permit. So to get the occupancy permit from the building department, we would have to have all fees paid in full unless there is a different development agreement in place. So if there is a deferral or anything, that has to be as part of the development agreement, which is done by the city council. So as it sits right now, he would have to pay the fees before we would issue an occupancy permit. Does that make sense?
Oh, absolutely. I'm just debating on options.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Oh,
Uh,
sorry.
I might
I'm
be able
sorry,
to.
I shut it
attend-
down for public comments. I'm sorry. I'll have to open back up. This is the councilman's time. So please.
Well, it's the whole council. I just, Mr. Schmidt. So I do recall, when Debbie and I, excuse me, Councilmember Baird, and I first came on council, this was an issue and it took quite a bit of time to get this put together and bless you for doing that, for saving this home. But I do remember, let's see, it says 2017, but it seems to me like it started in 2016 and it was all about the courthouse. Right? It was about moving the houses for the courthouse. And I do remember that you moved the houses on a weekend. And I think it was, like you said, around Christmas time, is that right? And you shut down the streets and moved the houses and that part was successful. That's good. But I seem to remember, and there isn't a copy of the agreement here. I don't see, the original, agreement contract or planning documents, but I do remember that there were times associated with when you were going to be doing it. And this is not the first time that you come to the council. I remember, you remember too, that you came to us once before a few years back and asked for more time, which we did grant you more time, as I recall, right? We did. So this is the second time that I recall that you come back for this. And I know it's been a crazy time with COVID and all the stuff that's going on, but you know, my question to our planner and our city manager and our attorney is, what kind, how is this going to impact us with our other contractors? In other words, if we have an agreement, we have a time set, if we have a certain amount of money that not just one person has to pay out or has to comply with, but all contractors have. How is this going to impact the way that the city works and work with our other contractors? Because I'm all for getting those houses done. Don't get me wrong. I love the old houses too, but I think that we have to be careful. We have to pay our staff, and you can talk about development fees and all the other stuff. But the point is that our city staff gets money every time they turn the contract over. And every time it's delayed and it's late, and it costs the city money. So when I think said that, you know, oh no, it was Paul that said that this money that we're talking about, this is not just pie in the sky money. This is actual money that the city is paying out for our employees to have to work on all projects. You know, we have to get the money back to pay our employees. And if we don't, that puts us in the hole. That's my point. So my question to staff, my question to staff is, and I don't see it here, what was the timeline?
Emily, do you have the timeline, at least on this lien?
Because we don't have.
And just to clarify, so we did do a comprehensive records check for everything associated with this project and property because it's extensive. We did not have a specific development agreement that was done with this. It was just the fee deferral. So there were no other pieces. So there isn't any other documentation besides what we have provided tonight in reference to the fee deferrals. So just to clarify that.
And most of that goes through the planning commission, right? The only thing that we deal with is the deferral, right?
No, you would deal with the development agreement as a whole.
I do believe if you look at section 4, it refers to within 1 year from the effective date of this agreement.
Thank you. And then I'll just go ahead. This is Jason Ledbetter, city manager. I'll just follow up. You know, we've worked with Mr. Schmidt. There are some things that city council cannot do. They cannot change the building code. You cannot, you know, override or supersede state law. And so we have worked with Mr. Schmidt. We have acquiesced where we could acquiesce, sitting down with our engineering team and public works, sitting down with Mr. Schmidt and his engineering team and gotten him going again. Your authority is financial and you can determine that it is too much and that you do want to waive it. For Miss Smith Freeman, that is kind of the crux of the question, is philosophically, how do you apply rules to everyone fairly and make a decision tonight that maybe would affect people in the future consistently wanting to come in front of council to have certain fees waived, because then it takes away the authority of your staff to basically maintain compliance to your muni code and your city policy.
Additionally, having gone to city council meetings for the last 35 years or so, I have found that when a accommodation is made to one developer, it remains in the minds of other developers, and it tends to proliferate requests for relief. And then they claim it's a standard of practice of the council to waive the fees, et cetera. So those arguments may not be successful, but they are proliferated by granting an accommodation. It's argued to be precedent setting.
I guess my only question is, since it started, there's been that actually 2017. And the hard part of that is there was an agreement back then in 2017. It's things that point in time, was the speeds. 69, 69.92. Those fees were back then, so that's my only question is pertaining towards that is, why did the permitting process at that point, did it, Bill, did you follow through on the permitting process? I guess that's my question towards you, or did time lapse and the permit expire?
At that time, no, I followed through and got the permit for that house.
But it has
Okay.
since then expired.
Since then, it expired once because I was working on it. And I would see the building inspector around. I'd see him at the office here, this and that. I'd say how I'm doing, this and that, and he said, "You're great, you're fine, you're nothing," I didn't ask him to come out and do an inspection. He knew what I was doing. We talked about what I was doing, how things were progressing, the roof and all that stuff. I mean, there's all kinds of things he could have come out and looked at. But he didn't. I didn't call him. We had our conversation and he says, "Great, everything's wonderful, everything's fine." Okay, my permit did lapse. And then, how was it? June 2nd of 22, I paid a $50 fee to reinstate that permit. And at that time, the outstanding balance was $6,725. That's this impact fee. And then a month later, I got a letter that says it went up to 2021 something. Okay. Now, talking about, I probably shouldn't say anything, but I'm going to. When we're talking about these plans and stuff for the lot split. I put them in years ago. My engineer was working on them slowly. We had them ready to go, ready to be signed. We had all the plan checks and all that done. That was back when Nielsen was here as the head of the planning and an engineer. They were ready for him to sign. He says, he hadn't mentioned this before. He says, oh, I want these changed. I want the headings. Normally you have the headings on the side because you side of the paper so that you can have your stuff put on there better. He says, I want them on the bottom of the page so I don't have to pull the drawer out as far. Okay, by the time we got that done, he went ahead and retired. There was no director, no engineer. And he went into, he finally got Bray as the director and Pace as the engineer. And that set of plans went into file 13, in other words, trash can. And everything went over again. I mean, Pace went wild with it. At that time, there was no retention pond required. And the sidewalks and stuff were a lot different. Just in that change was over $30,000 worth of stuff. Just the change of those plans. What could I do? Nothing. My engineer, I was talking to him, he said, well, hey, just go ahead and go with it because I've got to work with them folks in years to come. So I want to fight them. I'm not gonna, so what choice did I have? And when I signed these agreements, I said at the time, these time limits, I'm doing this by myself. These time limits, I probably can't meet. He says, oh, don't worry about it. So now what do we got?
So Bill, one last question. When you did that, filed recently in June, I think you said that $50 fee to extend the permit.
Yes.
Because that was correct. I need to have some clarification on our city staff on that. At that point in time, was that permit?
That permit was reinstated.
And the permit, the original permit, correct?
The what?
Yeah, this is Jason Ledbetter, city manager. So we have a multitude of different things happening. So you have Sherman Street has a building permit application. And if you don't have an inspection on a project, generally speaking, within a 6-month period, your project and your application become void. And so that transpired with the building permit application, which was easily reinstated by paying $50. And so technically, I don't think the building permit has ever been a question here. We're talking about the improvement plan, and we're talking about the retention pond, I believe, and the sidewalk that goes around Sherman, and then there's a gap because of the remainder in that parcel map split, and then another piece of sidewalk that goes in front of Hill. And so technically, especially in my time frame, we've always, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Schmidt, those are the only plans I'm aware of that we've ever had that are approved, and they've been approved. And when I first started here, Mr. Schmidt did not want to work his own plan set. We don't, Pace Engineering, that would be an incredible service. If the city of Yreka engineered your plans for you, that would be remarkable. We don't, we review them. So you get an engineer and you create your dream project that's compliant with the law. You turn that into your local agency, whether that's us, the county, or some other agency. In this instance, it's the city. We go through that process and we determine that you are abiding by all of these laws. And there's a back and forth period, a review process until you get to a yes stamped approved project. That's always been in our possession since my time, which is short-lived for this particular issue because I've only been here 11 months. And so when I first started, there was a lot of back and forth with Mr. Schmidt and myself because he didn't like his own plans. He did not want to do his own plans. He wanted to change those plans, but we worked with him to make things more financially feasible where we could. And so we utilized Matt Bray, we utilized Pace to get him actively back up and running on the project.
Okay, the plans I was talking about with Steve Neal, my engineer drew them and stuff, just like we did with Pace. Steve approved them all. all the way through, except right at the end. He wanted that changed, so, and he went ahead and retired when it was gone. So yes.
Is
And
there any-
I'm
How many more
I'm
questions
doing,
for council?
I'm building to that set. I mean, the set that Pace is done. I'm actively working on it.
Questions? from council? We are at point then. Where are we at, people? We need to figure out where we want to be. Yes, please.
So at this point, he has to pay the fees before he can get an occupancy tag. Well, I don't think we'll get the money before, so maybe we should work on negotiating to have the fees come out of the sale, so it's not.
I think that's, is that code, the occupancy? And again, what you're doing with that is you're saying that Whipple or Tom McCullough, they're gonna come to us and have for occupancy before their places are complete.
That's true too.
And we're gonna have to give it to.
That's true. Okay.
So you as a council can take it on a case by case basis under the development agreement ordinance. So if you did want to defer fees, you do have the power to do that. I would strongly suggest if you do hinge it on the sale of the property, that you also have a date in mind as well in case the property does not sell. Because that does happen, things happen. So we usually like to have a dual kind of trigger for those things. That could be an option for you tonight if
I'm sorry.
from a legal.
I just to clarify, I'm sorry, can you answer this question? Would that be a lien?
Basically, yeah, you could.
Okay, thank you.
Well, yeah, you could.
And then what would the interest be? We do things interest free. We don't have any bills here at the city. We don't have cops and fire.
I think that is more of a finance director question.
Well, and I'm sorry, this is Jason Ledbetter, the city manager. So what we are being kind of explained here is that what we can do is we can just redo everything that's already in place.
No, I was.
We can redo the lien in order to waive the fees now, create a new date in the future that staff can manage, and then if it doesn't work out, bring back to the future city council.
We pointed out changing the process is going to disrupt the whole process. So valid point, and I appreciate it. So I'm good. Never mind.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
one consideration would be, this is Mr. Smith's request for a waiver. And really no motion is necessary if the request is denied.
Oh.
Well, no, then it would go, the property would go into the foreclosure process as it's
If he doesn't pay the fees.
right.
So no vote would be necessary.
Right.
A consensus?
Don't need one. I mean, if somebody made a motion and it wasn't seconded,
It dies.
it would die. And since it's his request, there's no affirmative action that the city council has to take.
Oh, I get it.
So we just. So we just close.
We closed, you know.
So we just close and say. They move on. That stands.
We would, however, I'm asking, would we set up a grace period, another grace period? When we talk about a lien and everything like that, would we say we're gonna have 30, 60, 90 days or whatever, or?
That's really what we're here to discuss, because that's your authority to determine that. And we're just coming back with what was already determined, stating the timelines have not been met, and here are the escalating fees.
Yeah.
And the other question would be, would it be 6,000 or would it be 22,000 that you would be deferring?
Well, you just said that if no motion comes to the floor, motion dies, wouldn't it automatically be the 22,000?
But
It is
Yeah.
be just as is.
It's 6,000.
Currently leaned 2%,
Yeah.
the 22.
Yeah. What were you gonna say? I'm sorry, Madam, Finance Manager.
No, I just was reiterating that the property is leaned. There
Right
is a
now.
2%. So we are charging interest.
Okay, okay, thank you.
Yeah, that's very, very important that you guys recognize that because that's every single day. So we say 22,000 today, but we're until he's got an occupancy permit.
Councilman, so this is an incentive to get it done. And with what we have levied against him this is to say, okay, we're tired of playing the delay game, the excuse game, and you need to get this completed. And this is how we have come, because we've been patient, we worked with them, we said this is coming, and we're here. Is that correct?
Yes, that it's a enforcement mechanism to inspire somebody to complete a task by a specified date. Absolutely.
And one more comment is I'm just concerned that if we continue letting properties be like this in town, we continue letting everybody be, get away with it. And if they come before us and they see what we've done tonight, they're gonna come and thank the city. Well, they don't take care of business. They're waived his, they don't enforce their codes or their laws. So yeah, we're just gonna go ahead and make these promises, but we're gonna let this burned out building or this dilapidated house sit here because they waived this gentleman's fees and they're not gonna enforce anything. That's my concern. And not giving to other clients and builders, that have done good jobs and have rehabbed houses, foreclosures in town and got them done in a timely manner.
So at this point, if this foreclosure, this lien, where we're at right now, what is the time frame that we have on that? So in other words, where are we at? What are you saying? He has X amount of time to come up with this money, X amount of time to come up. What is that at? Where are we at on that?
We are just waiting for Mr. Schmidt to finish his project and then pay the balance of what is owed, which would naturally be more tomorrow than is today. That's where we currently stand from a code enforcement perspective. There's no shortage of work for the city of Yreka on a multitude of different projects. And so it just comes with time and energy and more than likely possible complaints where then we would explore options through code enforcement if we wanted to take another action. But ultimately, Mr. Schmidt he brought this item to you guys tonight to see if the council would be willing to remove the fees back down to roughly $7,000. It's not the city staff bringing it to you, if that makes sense. So there was technically, we're wanting to inspire Mr. Schmidt to complete his project. That's where we stand.
Well, I guess my concern on it is, that I'd like to see him complete the project, obviously, and I think everybody in this room would like to see him complete the project, but if we're to keep adding fees on every single day, then how is he supposed to be able to afford to do that? That, where I'm at that is if we're gonna, we need to either lock something down or whatever that may be, but if not, then he's gonna acquire fees that he can't pay no matter what. And that's just another house that's out there that's gonna sit until we go through the whole process. So,
Well, I think that's what we're trying to do tonight.
Yeah.
I think that's what we're attempting to do. But it is complicated and it's been a project that's gone on for 5.5, maybe even 6 years. And it's a project that the neighbors are not happy with. So we have to think of our neighbors. And again, we have to think of Mr. Schmidt trying to finish the house. And we have to think of our neighbors and we have to think of our obligation to taxpayers and to our city budget. And if we are gonna, I've still not, we haven't heard. If I knew it was gonna be done, say, January 31st, might be easier to say, hold it, at this, and then if it doesn't, then it accrues, we accrue interest backwards, but, it's been 5.5 years. And neighbors, not just, I mean, not just on, right there on Sherman, but other neighbors have complained. I mean,
So
I don't-
I guess my last request then, is for last clarification, because everybody's getting impatient with me, but, is what kind of date? Come on down, Mr. Schmidt, if you don't mind. Because if you could clarify some type of date, I think that would resolve it for all of us. If you could say it's gonna be 6 months, for me at least, would be a little better clarification. If we could say 6 months, or if you could say 2 months, whatever that may be, if you had some type of clarification and we held you to that, then what does that mean?
Okay, right now I'm actively trying to do the concrete. Weather permitting. If it's raining, snowing, freezing, I mean, you know, I'm working on that concrete as fast as I can. Okay? I'm gonna say it'd take me probably about another month to get the concrete done. So I can get the city stuff done. Is basically what that parcel map's about. Cause it's on city property I'm working on, right?
Part of it is, just compliance with state law. I don't think your retention pond is on city property.
The retention pond isn't, no, but the rest of it is.
well, and sidewalks, although they're on your property, sidewalks since Julius Caesar have been in Rome, have been the responsibility of the owner of the dwelling. That goes back
They
to,
are on city
that goes back to
property.
ancient Rome, though.
So
They are on
let's-
city
Let's
property.
get back to the subject. I'm
But-
asking you, Bill,
Yeah.
how long do you think it would take?
Give us a date.
Let's
if
say a
some type
month
of
for
figure,
that,
because
depending
I
on
think that'll
weather,
make this-
depending on weather. And then I'm gonna move inside and finish the inside. I would say month and a half, 2 months on that. So 3 months, 4 months. Let's give me 4 months.
So if you say 6 months, you'd have it completed, ready to sell.
Yes.
That's what I mean, I know timelines, if anybody knows timelines, we're all running crazy, especially in the construction industry, so.
That's what I was talking to Jason back in April about on doing the curbs and gutters sidewalk. 'Cause time's getting away from me. We're getting up against the weather.
Yep.
You know,
That's unfortunate, that's why we live
Yeah.
in Siskiyou County, because we love the weather.
well, at
You know,
that time,
it's
I
also
mean,
one of our
Jason
worst
said,
enemies.
go ahead and, work on it. So I went ahead and got it painted. And then, then we got where I could go on the side, the city stuff. So, yeah, I'm saying,
Basically, you're saying you could have it done in 6 months. Fees, if we were to lock the fees in at this point in time and say that there would be no more fees accumulated. And would be at the 6 months, then this is what we could do, something like that legit, right?
Yes, I believe that's your authority.
And by fees, you mean 22,000 or?
Well, that's what we would have to,
22.
yeah, we'd have to acknowledge that.
Plus, if it's not done in 6 months, then it would accrue the back. It would have to accrue the back. And at that point in time, I guess, then we would have to move to,
Would have another.
I mean, I appreciate what Mr. Schmidt's saying, but it wasn't up to us to move him along. 5.5 years ago, it was not up to us. It was up to him. And I know that when it's cold out, I work on something inside of my house. I go in, I just take the opportunity to do that in my shop. And because I know it is cold out there, and it's difficult to pour concrete. You got to pour it hot. But it's not up to us to be the one that is doing the problem solving again on, I don't expect you to come up to my house and problem solve on stuff in my house. And
Well,
it's,
actually, right now,
it's,
I do need to,
yeah,
but-
well, yeah. But it's not up to us to do that. But it is up to us to be responsible, not only to Mr. Schmidt, but to our constituents, of which we know there are quite a few, because we just had an election and we're looking at the two top voters, and Drake Davis and Colleen is there something. There she is right there. And it's up to us to keep this city, number one, afloat financially, and things are rising. just like building materials are rising. Salaries are rising, costs on police cars and fire engines and putting streets in are rising. So it's our responsibility to make sure that we do that. So, I mean, we really have to be careful about what we do. We could set a precedent here and then it'll come tumbling down. So that's the thing.
No, I'm just trying to get through these questions, make sure we are doing
Yeah.
the right thing. You know, it's one of those things, it's.
Well, sometimes the right thing isn't easy and
No.
doesn't feel good. It
Exactly.
obviously doesn't feel good.
Absolutely.
When we have a car
one-
repossessed. it doesn't
One
feel
last question, clarification on anything. We can or cannot do it at the end of the sale.
Yeah, you have the authority to do that. I would have to rewrite this whole thing.
You know, I know
But is that sale also within the 6 months?
Right,
And are we willing to do it for the other contractors that might need the help?
right. No, I understand.
Correct.
I get it.
Correct.
I've already rolled this over my head, so that's what I'm just trying to figure out with that. I don't know how we do this, but I'd like to make a motion that we give him 6 months. The fees will cure, or he'll pay them at the end of the sale. And we'll have to write up the rest of the contract on that,
Which fees?
the 22,000.
You give him 6 months to finish or 6 months to sell?
6 months to put it, to have it finished and have it on the market. And then.
Well, that could be another, 6 or 8 months to sell.
Okay. Okay. Say June 1st, then have it sold.
I mean, I think I saw it on the market already once, online somewhere, and I don't know how it went on the market.
That was just a different listing. That's
Well, it's the same house, though.
the white one, yeah.
No, okay.
It was,
Where's it? Pink one. Okay, gotcha.
so that's my motion, if anybody wants to follow it, then that's it is, if it isn't, then it falls.
Clarify your motion again.
It was the 22. Up here.
So
Impact fees,
let me see if I can restate it, because I think you're including part of council member McCoy's ideas. And that would be, you would temporarily forego further fees and penalties accruing against the property for a period until June 1st. And would issue an occupant, a certificate of occupancy prior to the payment of the fees. But if escrow didn't close and the city was not paid $22,000 by June 1st, then previously forbearan penalties and interest would be reimposed and the entire amount would be assessed against the property.
Fair. In 6 months.
that's the motion. All, that's where it stands. But we've already gave the lawyers, attorneys gave a clarification.
Point of order. If I may,
Yes,
you have met with Mr. Schmidt and Mr. Ledbetter before.
correct.
Can he go ahead, since he's had individual meetings with the two? I mean, I'm not asking about the motion, but as far as voting, can he vote? Or does he need to recuse himself?
Well, the question is, did the information that you gained outside the city council meeting give you additional information that was not available to the rest of the city council members? And therefore, you're working from a different fact basis. And if you are working from a different fact basis, then Councilmember McCoy's point is valid, that wouldn't be appropriate for you to vote on it.
I don't know. As far as that goes, I think everything, that information that he's presented has been presented to everybody. Unless there's something Jason would know, he was there, so.
I have no comment.
I don't know what that means.
Well said.
I have nothing to add. It's really, it's up to you to make that statement
I think
and
pretty much the information that he's presented to us is the same information that everybody else at this point has heard. So I don't think there's any other information that would change my judgment or change anything else at that point. No.
Thank you. So Mr. Schmidt did not have any, when you had these meetings, did not have any influence over you or
No.
persuade or
If it
anything
was,
like that?
if he did.
Just making sure.
If he did, it would have been this, if that was the case, it would have been the $7,000, $6,900 and whatever. So I am obviously. So, no.
Just making sure.
So anyways, there's a motion, but if there's no second, then false. Is there
I mean, I'm just gonna step in here and advocate that I think this is a solid motion, and I think that ultimately, $22,000 and a firm date on occupancy still maintains the credibility of the city. This is a pretty obscure scenario. It's gonna be difficult for someone to come in here and ask for the similar item because we'll never allow anyone to move a house in the city of Yreka ever again. And so my fear is the compounding, and ultimately, I do think Mr. Schmidt got a deal at the beginning because $7,000 was actually, it was a half off. We were doing a half off diff fees for some reason. And so technically now up to 22 is probably a little bit more in line with what we technically would charge, even though I imagine it's more than that. But just to stop the bleeding here, get to the finish line, June 1st, or if that changes to the 5th, we now have a hard date. It's fresh in everyone's mind. Future council members, Davis and Baker are never probably going to forget this. And that's just my 2 cents.
So what?
Council Middleton.
Can I say something?
I'm gonna.
It's worth stop. I'm sorry, Bill.
Council Middleton, I will second Mayor Kage's motion to let the 22,000 some odd dollars, waive the percentage for the 6 months, but we must have this project completed and we must have this money in the city of Yreka by June 5th or whatever it is. No more exceptions. Thank you.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second.
Call for question, please.
Question on,
Repeat the motion, please, exactly as it's going to minutely, because
Okay.
again, we have nothing on this. Everything we have is he said, she said.
gotcha. I think Don's gonna try to clear it up. So we have an attorney here.
Hope that's not your grocery list.
Oh. That's thought.
Oh.
I thought you said that. Well, okay.
Oh,
I just wanna-
oh, okay.
That's why I'm asking for a call for question. I don't want to vote on something that we're not
Right.
sure about.
No, that's fine. I get it. I'm not questioning that. Don, would you, like a quick recess?
If that's what you like, I can,
I'm not trying to push you. I'm just saying if we want recess, we can I think some of the audience might have to. Take care of an issue.
Yeah. How about this? The city attorney is directed to redraft the Schmidt agreement to temporarily abate interest and penalties. And to allow the issuance of a certificate of occupancy. So long as the a certificate of occupancy is issued and the residence closes escrow by June 6th, 2023. If the debtor fails to perform timely, the interest and penalties that had been temporarily abated will be reimposed and added to the lien on the residence.
So they'll be accrued retroactively.
Yes.
Exactly. There enough, clear as mud.
Yeah. Yeah, we're closing escrow by the 6th of June.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. Exactly.
Oh,
That-
the
is
only,
that satisfying?
and if it doesn't, he's still responsible. Okay, but that doesn't say how it's handled afterward, but, okay.
I mean, he didn't.
Well, if it doesn't, it would be on June 6th, on June, there'd be a lien, the lien would.
The
continue
lien
when it
starts back up.
We don't want it his house. We
No.
want him to have his house. We, Lord knows, we go into some of these homes that are burned out, but we can't get people to do anything about. I mean, we're
There's a
all in
few.
agreement with that.
So as long as everybody's clear, then we have a motion in a second. Correct? Yes,
Yeah.
you okay with it?
Yeah, I'm just not okay with overriding what our recommendations are to
Okay.
staff.
Yeah, no,
That
I get it.
bothers me that staff gives us recommendations, but I've overridden them before.
Okay.
I've been the bad guy. I got in
think we
trouble.
all-
I got in trouble.
Right now,
because
I think we're
supported
all being the
pool.
bad guys right now.
I supported the pool and everybody hates me for that, so.
Okay, we have a motion in a second. We'll do roll call. Joan Smith Freeman. And your microphone, please.
Aye.
Paul McCoy,
Aye.
Roy Middleton.
Aye.
You there?
Aye.
And I, Dwayne King. It's a compromise.
So
Compromise.
we'll, now,
That's
will,
right.
will we, do we need to have a meeting set up with Mr. Schmidt ASAP in order to, get, no?
No, Mr. Schmidt has an active building permit and he has a site plan that's permitted, so he really needs to just focus on continuing to complete his
So
project.
I hate to
And-
ask this for the rest of council, but can we take a 5-minute recess?
Yeah.
I know we have other business and I know
which is just requiring some surveying prior to construction to confirm that. We are working with the applicant to schedule that and get that done. So pursuant to the California Environmental Quality Act, also known as CEQA, this is considered a project under CEQA, so it does have to go through review, but it is eligible for a Class 15 categorical exemption, which was adopted by the Planning Commission at their November meeting. So there is no other required actions at this time on that piece of regulation. There was a little bit of a misprint in the packet. You do not need to reapprove or readopt that CEQA exemption. It has been filed. And it was not appealed at the Planning Commission level. So we go into the application itself is pretty straightforward. We do have the applicant here today and the conditions of approval. I did parcel them out from the resolution so that they're easier to read, and that begins on page 131 of your packets. They basically are very standard for what we require for most of our parcel maps from the city planning and city engineering portion of that. We do have a slightly other unique feature on the property, which there are portions of the Yreka ditch, which could be considered a culturally significant site. Thankfully, the applicant has actually already provided us with an archaeological survey of that. So they have already met those conditions to take a look at that piece. So there's no issues with that as well. We are not requesting the applicant register it as a cultural or historic landmark. We are just asking to not develop that portion of the property to keep that piece intact. So I will open it up now if you have any questions of the applicant or if you have any questions of myself.
Right, I'm gonna open up to the council. Council have any questions?
Pretty straightforward. Thank you.
Right.
And what I really liked was how you protected the big ditch and also if Mr. Whipple decides to sell, it's supposed to go with the agreement if I read correctly.
Yes, the conditions of approval will be recorded with the deed of the property, so that it will be the onerous of maintaining the 10-foot buffers from the ditch will be put on in perpetuity.
I don't. I just want to commend Mr. Whipple for doing everything, and really pushing forward and making this happen. So, yes, if you want to come down, Mr. Whipple, and say a few words, we appreciate it. You might want to raise that. It's a little low for you.
You're a tall guy.
Well, let me tell you. So thanks for reviewing that. I wasn't sure if you seen the botanical that I dropped off yesterday also. So fortunately, Kathy Tyler, who works for an organization in Fort Jones, after the fires that actually went through all the fire lines and everything, looked for the Siskiyou flocks. And actually, it actually went onto the property. And I'd spoke to her, got the report on that. There's none at this time, has not been over the summertime. So fortunately, that's a positive thing for us, because that was it. I just didn't know if you got that.
On the flocks, is that what you're talking about?
Yes, on the flocks,
Yeah, there's
Siskiyou
no
flocks
up
are,
there. I know.
yeah, there's none up there.
I've walked your property numerous times.
Well, good.
Before you got it.
There's a lot of people that walk it.
Well, there's Ignish up there, a lot of that.
Yeah. Okay.
Celery, wild celery.
Oh.
That was it. I just, yeah, what was your question?
No, I just want to commend you for
Thanks.
doing all the proper steps and everything else. I just
Thank
thank you for that
Thank you.
and handling it.
Yeah.
Thank you. Any questions from the council for Mr. Whipple?
I have a motion.
I got to open up for public.
Oh,
first.
public.
Yes.
Okay. I'll come back.
Okay. All righty. I'll open up for the.
No,
public.
it's celebration.
I've been, yeah, as long as there's no other questions from the council.
Oh, no,
for-
not for me.
Okay, I'm gonna open up now for public comments at this point in time.
Come up to the
Chris
microphone.
McCullough wants to know if she can ask a question.
She was asked to you.
Come to the microphone.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Put you on the spot now.
Sorry, Chris.
You can come around this way. It's easier.
My name is Chris McCullough.
Oh, you can make
There we
it
go.
go down.
I've been a resident of Siskiyou County for, well, let's see, since 1986. So anyway, I'm been around. I just had some questions. We missed the first meeting. So we were just curious, the access to the property. Where are you?
He's
There you are.
Back there.
Yeah, so the
be
access to the
neighbors.
property will it be from Northview? Or Discovery? Northview, okay,
Upper, yeah.
okay. Okay, okay, yeah, we didn't, yeah, sorry, we didn't do a meeting. Okay, got it. Okay. Okay, great, okay, and so then will the water be city water or will you have to drill a well? Okay, and do you need a storage tank? For the property?
The two houses.
Okay. Okay. And let's see. So the road from Discovery, right? It will be a regular driveway, not a through street. Okay, okay. Let's see what else. And, okay. And the remainder parcel. So so you have your half acre lot and then you have the lot for your house, right? And then the remainder is the proposal will be to be. Okay. Is that it? Any more questions? Don't have any ideas. Oh, I don't know, plant some vineyards or something. Um, anything else? Can you think of anything?
They're gonna be neighbors, so we're letting them be friendly.
Oh, yeah.
We want them to be friendly.
One more. Power. Are you gonna have underground power or overhead? Okay, good. That's good. Okay. I think that's it. All right, thank you.
Great, thank you. Thank you, Greg. All righty, any other public comment at this point in time?
Were you talking to me?
Righty, then I will close it for public comment and open it back up to the council. What is the wishes of the council?
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
if there's anybody left online, this is Councilmember Joan Smith Freeman. I just had a gentleman during the break tell me that the only person up here that did this correctly was the city manager. That the sound system was terrible, so I'm going to try to get
Okay.
closer to the microphone. Okay, I would like to make the recommended motion that the city of Yreka, the city council, approve resolution number 2022XX. Is it supposed to be XX?
2022-53.
So there was a little bit of a misprint in the recommended action. So it is resolution 2022-53.
Okay,
And it would be to approve the tentative parcel map.
what she said. I was going to read it.
That's okay. Yeah.
Okay, the resolution 2022-53 with the conditions outlined in attachment 3. Based on the information presented in the tentative parcel map and application, the findings for approval can be made with the proposed conditions. Many of the conditions of approval are codified state law and reiterated in the conditions of approval to ensure compliance with the city subdivision regulation and the state subdivision map act. Councilmember Baird, I'll second.
Have a motion and a second. I will do roll call. Joan Smith Freeman,
Aye.
Paul McCoy,
Aye.
Corey Middleton,
Aye.
Debbie Baird.
Aye.
I, Dwayne Cake. Thank you. Thank you for your patience.
Thank you. Yes, thank you, Todd. Thank you,
Thank you.
Todd. Good night.
All righty, we'll go on to new business 13. Recognition of outgoing councilman, recognizing outgoing councilmen. And Mr. Ledbetter. your
Yes,
turn.
thank you very much, Mr. Mayor and city council members for the city of Yreka. This is Jason Ledbetter, the city manager. So I just wanted to kind of outline the next few minutes as I see them. And so I am going to recognize some council members. This is their last meeting tonight. I'm going to do that with the plaque. I'm also going to recognize a council member whose term ended in 2020 and during COVID, I don't think was properly recognized at that time. After that, Mr. Henyon, the city attorney, would like to come up and make a few comments and reminisce on some level to his tenure with the two folks that are leaving us tonight. After that, we're going to take a short break where we will finally eat this food and mingle with the families that are here and take some photos. And then after that, when we reconvene, our new council members will sit down at the dais and we will then proceed as the new Yreka City Council. So first and foremost, Miss Baird. It's been short, but it's been sweet. For me, it's only been 11 months. But for you, it's been 8 years. I know you've given a lot of time and effort to the city even before your time here on city council. I enjoyed our time together and your tenacity for the Collier rest stop as well. And so I wanted to give you a plaque.
Like, thank you. Did you wrap it yourself?
No.
Yeah, no, yeah.
Yes, and then you'll be we'll have you say a few words if you so choose, Deb, and then hopefully we can have some photographic here moments during intermission when we're eating with the plaque as well. And synonymous, I think, here with Siskiyou County and the city of Yreka, Miss Joan Smith Freeman, the best dressed council member, in my opinion. Obviously, we spent a lot of time together when you were on the LTC and I was over with the county. You spent 8 years with Siskiyou County as a supervisor and then spent 8 years with the city of Yreka right after that. So 16 years of government service as an elected official is pretty remarkable to say the least. And so congratulations, and we have a plaque for you as well.
Oh, look, it looks like yours. Mine's golden.
Yes. And I will exit here shortly and let Mr. Henyon have a few words, but Mr. Shasky, we never worked together, but we have engaged quite a bit. Always enjoyable.
There's always yeah, exactly.
Yes. And then for those that don't know, I believe Mr. Shasky was the mayor of Mountain View, California. So before moving here to the city of Yreka. So without further ado, Mr. Henyon.
I think there were munchkins here before.
All by yourself.
Yeah.
Okay, so on the occasion of your retirement, we all want to thank you for your many years of great leadership. Everyone agrees that you possess a rare combination of vision, fairness, and understanding, critical qualities for an effective council member. Many of us had additional reasons for our gratitude, for you have given special attention to our specific needs. Few realize that assuming the mantle of public office is an awesome and burdensome responsibility. It requires an extraordinary commitment of time, diligence, and energy. Councilmember Smith Freeman joined me in attending many conferences over the decommissioning of the Klamath dams, not to advocate for or against it, but to work with state and federal agencies to ensure that our water rights were protected. And protected they were. Her favorite saying is, you're either at the table or on the menu.
That's right.
Further, her committed energies towards statewide leadership in Cal Cities to make the voice of rural cities heard among the greater voice of the state's megalopolises. Councilmember Beard made special efforts to help guide both Yreka and Siskiyou County Local Formation District, cooperation with other cities in Siskiyou, and the Collier Tunnel Project. Pushing papers. Her ear was ever vigilant to the voice of the people. We give you special thanks for your caring. We thank you all. We thank you all for all you've done and all you have taught us, and send our very best wishes for a happy retirement from all the employments of public life.
Now we'd like to give both exiting council members the opportunity to make statements if they so choose. And then at that point, if we can convene to recess in a short break and photo opportunity.
I will make it short. I want to say thank you for allowing me to serve this community. It has been a pleasure. It has been an extreme learning experience, both of how government works, how I work with groups, and watching personalities. I'll tell you, it is an amazing experience, and I'd like to encourage everyone to spend a little time with government. It's a different arena. I'll certainly say that, but it has been my honor to serve the community, and to serve under two mayors. As many times as I offered to help, they really enjoyed being at the helm of the ship and both declined. I filled in a little bit for you and a little bit for Wayne, but they were very comfortable in the leadership role, but I was there to support whenever they needed me. But it's been an honor and thank you so much.
And it's been an honor working with you as well, and with every single one of you. So I was going to talk a little bit about what I did, but Don covered that for me. But I'll just talk a little bit about it. Sitting on the water committee, as we call it, for the city has really been a challenge and an honor to represent all of us there. And I was on the Klamath River restoration, fisheries restoration. When I was 8 years, when I was on the Board of Supervisors, I followed Supervisor George Thackeray. Some of you will know him, who sat on that committee to protect Siskiyou County for many years. And I followed him. And then the 8 years that I've spent on the water committee here. And as our attorney stated, we were not pro, we were not con, although in our hearts we were one or the other. But we were absolutely there to protect the water, the beautiful, clear Fall Creek water that we are privileged to have in our city. It's better than any other city. I'm not sure, but it might even be better than Mount Shasta. I'm not sure. That one comes off the mountain. But that has been such an honor for me. The Local Transportation Commission, I'm hoping that one of you will let the Mayor Selection Committee know that you're interested in that, because I've sat on that and I followed Rob Pacheco, former council member, on that committee. And I've got two instances here where I did good for the city. I did more than two, but there were two items that came up at the meeting last Tuesday. One was a $93,939.54 Greenhorn Road pedestrian path that we were awarded in 2018 that is not completed. And one was a $92,940 Yama Street curb ramp improvements. That was allocated in 2019. They were talking about possibly putting that money back in the pot to be reallocated out to all the other cities. Well, I want to tell you that I went to bat for the city and I said, oh, no, we're close. We're close. We're going to get this done. And luckily for me, Supervisor Michael Kopsef also advocated with me, and we convinced the other commissioners that that money should stay with the city of Yreka. So that's a lot of money, couple $100,000, and it's good money. It's good for the city of Yreka. That's why I want I would love one of you guys on the Local Transportation Commission. It's so important to be there to advocate for our city, because you are absolutely right. My motto is, if you're not at the table, you're on the menu. And that was a pretty good, that showing. Well, Nancy was there. Thank you for supporting me, Nancy. You and Michael, boy, what on either side of me. Yeah, because we have to be there in order to, to represent our city and to save us, if you will. Cal Cities, I was so honored to be the president of our Northern California division. They call it the Sacramento Valley Division, but I refused to call it that when I was president. It was the Northern California. I represented 58 northern cities, and I was privileged to be on the state board representing over 500 cities on that state board, and I represented the northern 58. So we had a voice at the table. I would also like you guys to consider running for those positions as well, because if we're not there, we don't have a voice. And people in LA don't know what it's like to live in Yreka. So I would, I was also privileged to help begin the Siskiyou Homelessness Coalition. It was the mayor of the city of Yreka at the time, Mayor Kathy Mortar, who I just heard is moving to Idaho, be closer to her daughter and granddaughter. Anyway, we started that before COVID, but thank you to the mayor, and also to Councilmember McCoy for carrying on in that. It's a tough job, thankless job, but thank you for all you do on that. I was also the mayor and privileged to be the mayor for 2 terms. But my term was also during the beginning of COVID. And Shelley Davis here tonight knows what it's like to be in that position, right, Shelley? It was a tough time in the beginning of that. And I know after I was mayor, then you took it over and good job. Yeah, I know it's still tough. And thank you to all of you for all your hard work. These have been really trying times, but I do feel like we're coming out of it. I think things are getting better. And I have confidence in the 3 of you and the 2 of you. I know that the city will go on and that you guys will do great work. And what was it that Brian Foster said? I'll be watching. But you know, the pool was probably the hardest thing. It's something that I wanted, that I thought in my heart and with a passion that would be good for the city of Yreka. So it's something that I will continue to work on in my retirement. And those of you that know me know that I'm not going to be retired.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I want to say something. Yeah, I think we need to open this up to us now. I think it's our turn.
No. Oh, no.
Yes, it is. Yeah.
Say bad stuff.
So whoever wants to start off.
I'll start off. Since I'm the shortest one sitting here for the last short timer with you guys for 2 years.
I'm shorter than all you.
But he's taller.
Yeah. I've got to know both of them before, actually. I got took my seat here. And all I can say is to both of you, it's been a pleasure sitting with you and learning, because it is such a process of like, you don't never know what's going to come before you. You don't have any idea what goes on behind closed doors when we have to meet behind closed doors. It's just not about cleaning up the parks or the streets. There's a lot of tough decisions we made here the last 2 years, and it was a little stressful. I didn't know if I was going to make it, but he encouraged me to just hang in there, because I was like, oh gosh, what did I get myself into? But I'll start with Debbie. One thing I'll give Debbie is we didn't always agree, but we walked away and we're still friends the next day. We volunteer together on different boards, and so I get to see her. I'll continue getting to see her, but she never wavered from her opinion. If she said I'm against something, sometimes she compromised, but she held her guns, and I respect her for that. Not that I agreed with her when she did it, but I respect her for that. She never wavered from what she thought was right in her opinion, and her citizens that she fought for, and for our town, she stuck to her guns. And so I admire her for that. And I hope I can take a little bit from that, to just never back down, who I believe in. And I'll end with that, because I'm getting a little sad, because I'm going to miss them both. But I'm welcoming 2 people I'm getting to know Colleen, but I've known Drake for a long time, but I'm looking forward to working with them, but I'm going to miss my friends here as well. But look forward to building a friendship with you guys sitting at the seat down here. For Joan, man, a book of knowledge, just everything she has brought to the table, that she has, done for public service. Just anything off the top of her head, water rights, codes, state of California rules, laws, regulation, those coming from us. She knew it. She's carries a book of information knowledge that I will never have. I can guarantee that. And so she's been just great to learn from. I'm going to miss her, but I know it's not goodbye. I know I'll be seeing her on different things, and so it's not goodbye. It's I'll see you later, guys. Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
So it's not a roast.
Not really.
Okay. Wasn't sure. Ooh.
So where do I start? I'm gonna start with Norm. Sorry, guys.
Oh, Norm.
I'm gonna start with Norm.
Bless you, Norm.
Norm, I got to work, and I want to thank Norm for his years of commitment with the city council. Norm was a valuable, huge asset for the city of Yreka. His knowledge with financing, his knowledge of the city, period. He brought so much to the table, and he was very well missed. And I think I've expressed this to him numerous times that if I could, I'd add another city councilman to this table here because he brought so much to this council, so much to what we're still working on this day and age, that he was his ideas and his drive. And we still have some of these conversations to this day of what he's accomplished. And I would just want to thank you, Norm, for that. And thank you for all your knowledge and thank you for everything you've done for us. Again. Now I'll go into these two.
Whoops. Time to move on.
Well, So Joan, I started off with working with Joe and Clearback in 2009, no, 10, well, 9 or 10 at the Chamber of Commerce Board of Directors.
Right.
She was executive director and we actually ran the parade together. We got thrown into that.
Gold Rush days.
Yep, Gold Rush days. Both of us were just thrown into it, and I'll tell you what, we both learned a lot, and there was a lot to take in. We since then become good friends. We've worked on numerous projects together. We've now with the city, we've done tons of things and accomplished major milestones that the city is going to prosper in the future with because of the things that we've accomplished as a council, especially the last 2 years. It's been to be kind about it, it's been hell. But it's been good because we've got a lot done in the last couple of years and there's a lot going on. We had to deal with a lot of things and it was great that we've got to work together and accomplish these things. And like what Tori was saying, she brought to the table a lot of knowledge that we never knew about, especially the knowledge of the county supervisors, just political knowledge that we have. I'm not a politician, I never claimed to be, but Joan brought us that attention and knew where to direct those things, especially when it came to the state level and county level, that we had no clue what we're doing. So, and Debbie, you know, we're quite a while now.
I don't want.
We go back with the chamber also. And we worked together on numerous things on the chamber. She got me actually interested in politics.
Sorry.
Huh? I know, I should be cussing you, not thanking you. She got me interested in politics. She got me interested in working in the planning commission. Wasn't for her, I would have never been on the planning commission. She made it sound so easy that the transition from the planning commission to the city council, I said, what the heck, I'll go for city council now. Oh, wow,
I'm in sales.
Yeah, I don't know what you're trying to sell, but I'll tell you what, it's not what it was. But I thank you for everything. Like you said, you brought, like Corey is saying, so much to the table, so much knowledge. You're so sure and never wavered on your decision making and stuff. And I just thank you for that guidance. I got to work with both of these ladies on 2 different levels, not just the council, but as Mayor Pro Tem and her under Mayor Pro Tem. So it's been great. It's been be able to see that leadership on both sides. It was great to have the leadership from both of these individuals and the knowledge they brought to help me where I'm at now. Let's tell you what, it couldn't been done without their help. They've been a valuable asset to the city. If people only knew what they've helped accomplish at the city, you'll be thanking them. Trust me. Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
Thank
you. All right. Anything else? Words?
I'd like to thank Norm. First of all, Norm, I'm good work.
Mm-hmm.
I want to thank and for their leadership. And I'm going to speak you have served a lot. I would have gone to there. You serving on senior student. And I absolutely great. And Joe, I want to thank you for everything you've done on the wall and on getting our kids out to swim on. But I really want to thank both of you. And we hired a city manager that we hit the ground running and that, you know, some of us that didn't have experience, not being here. And it's been wonderful. And it's thanks to your leadership.
Oh, absolutely. Paul brings up a good point. I tell you, the new staff is incredible. We are very fortunate to have had the experience to work with them. And I have to tell you, the department heads and Chief Gilman and all of the new wonderful people that are on board now working so well as a team. It's really truly an honor to see everybody work together, compromise when they need to, stand up to the dates that they commit to complete things on, and they really work with a finished goal in mind, not just coasting along with politics and government. And they're very goal oriented, and completing any task is really tough in government in a timely manner. It's almost non-existent. So I just so much appreciate your input. I really do. Thank you, Don, for all the years we've worked together.
And I would like to follow up with that too and say what a pleasure it is working with both of you. Don, we've worked together for many years, and it's such a pleasure working with you too, Jason, and our new staff, because many of you don't know that we've had quite a turnover with retirements, and so it's been challenging. So thank you both for holding us all together and
Yes.
leading us forward. And I had something here and now I can't find it.
And
Yeah.
Retta's staying with us. Thank you, Retta.
A plaque.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
there you go. Yeah, here's the plaque. No, I can't find it. I've got, it disappeared. Oh, here it is. So, you know, this is something I was gonna talk about
Oh.
earlier. So we asked our new city manager, when he came on, okay, we want to know what projects
Yeah.
we've worked on, right? You'll see from this, and the new city council members will see this.
Yeah.
These are all the projects that our staff is working on. Some of them
Jesus,
completed,
Jesus.
many of them ongoing. I brought this tonight to remind us what we're working on, because sometimes it doesn't feel like we're making progress. Sometimes it gets frustrating because, like you said, government sometimes moves slowly unless you don't want it to, then it can move quickly. But anyway, these pages were such an eye opener to me to see the dozens and dozens and dozens of projects that we have worked on and completed, and we currently continue to work on with our attorney, with our city manager, with our staff. This is ongoing, and I'm keeping this, I'm saving this to prove that we actually did something. You want a copy?
No, I have mine. I have mine.
41 million. $41 million.
It's a lot.
Thanks, you guys. Appreciate it. Alrighty, well then, I think it's
Okay.
photo op time and it's break and we'll go to a recess, do the photos, and then we'll come. Might have to adjust. It. Everybody's got the little height that they like it at.
Oh, really? That's quite a place to live.
It's 9:40.
Nice. I like that.
All right, I'd like to call it back to order in the city council. Now we're on to 13C, swearing in a council. This one, I think Retta's got this one in charge. Thank you, Retta.
Thank you, Retta.
I haven't had a no response.
Yep, that's what we're doing.
Let's do it.
Want to do it all, want to get them all to stand up all at once? Make it easy for y'all. Want it out front here?
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, much guys will go out in front there.
Certainly.
Make it easy for Retta.
Say I in a pause and you can say your whole thing.
Yeah, don't say I, say your name. There you go.
So, ladies and gentlemen, I
Paul Lloyd and Davis.
do solemnly swear or affirm that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of California against all enemies, foreign and domestic, that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of California. That I will take this obligation freely without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion. And that I will well and faithfully discharge the duty upon which I am about to enter.
Council member. Thank you. Great.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Congratulations. Happy to have you on board.
Thank you. All right.
Realize it. Thank you.
You just couldn't say, you just couldn't say.
That's what I. Thank you.
I do know it too.
No.
Okay.
Thanks, I'll share with Matt.
Oh, okay.
right back. Yes, absolutely. It's just a little
Unorthodox circumstances, I think, this
Yeah.
evening. So we will wait for Council Member McCoy.
What's that?
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
while we're waiting, yeah, I might as well do that right now.
I,
Yeah.
the room looks a lot
Did I screw
bigger
something
from down here.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. Absolutely. Okay. I think we're good.
Okay. Okay. Here in a little bit.
All right, City of Yreka City Council members, this is the time of the evening that we are going to select. You are going to select our new mayor. And so what's going to happen is anybody can make a nomination. You don't need a second for a nomination. Upon receipt of one nomination, additional nominations can be made. So it doesn't matter who gets nominated first. Multiple nominations can be made. And please note, any council member can nominate themselves as well. And multiple nominations are acceptable and will be voted in the order that they were received. So I will keep track of nominations. And when all nominations are completed, we will then go through the list of nominations until we have a mayor determined. So that may only be going through one nomination because 3 members of the council have already determined the mayor. Hopefully that makes sense. So I am going to open the floor for any nominations from anybody on city council.
I just say something real quick.
Oh, go ahead.
That just to let everybody know, at this point in time, everybody needs to recognize that the position of the mayor is not to be taken lightly. This position is something that you need to take to heart. It's something that the city takes a lot of time. It's something that you need to take seriously. It's things that you'll have, this position is something that when you're there, you are there for 2 years, you're gonna put your whole heart into it. You're going to be in a position where you're making some critical decisions that you may not want to make. This is a position that you'll spend lots of nights, sleepless nights. You'd be making decisions of making and calling a city manager when the city manager is not there. Prime example is when we had a city interim manager and he was absent and there was a lot of problems going on at City Hall. And that's the position the mayor has to be, is down there helping the city staff and being there with the council, making critical decisions. It's nothing to be taken lightly.
Yeah, and I'll just go ahead and elaborate on that and then we'll go for nominations. But essentially, the primary function of the mayor is to control the flow of this meeting, the city council meeting. That's the primary function. In every other instance, for the most part, you are just another city council member. And for those that have still remained with us here at 9:51, ultimately, it's also very important. I think everybody here realizes this. You know, we did kind of talk about and thank people for their part, but for me as your city manager, this is a faceless organization. This is the city council. The city council has not changed for me. The city council will never change. The city of Yreka will always have a city council and you are playing a part in it. You are no longer an individual. You act as 5 people. You are 20% of a person and you make decisions together. You do not make them separately outside of this space. And with that, I will take your nominations. Mr. Drake, I believe you were going to do something.
Yes.
I'll nominate Colin Baker.
And so we will continue to take nominations until there's no more nominations. And by default, we will vote after all nominations. The first vote we will do would be for Colleen as mayor, but we're still in nomination phase. Any other nominate? That's it? Are we done? Anybody? I don't want to end this too early, so just to clarify, Councilmember McCoy, do you have a nomination? Councilmember Middleton? You're already nominated? Yep. Councilmember Keg? And you guys have already both nominated someone. So I will go through now in the first nomination by Drake. Davis, pardon me, for Miss Colleen Baker. And I'm gonna go now on a roll call. So this is to select Miss Colleen Baker as the City of Yreka mayor. And I'm gonna go through this as it's listed here. So of course, Council Member Baker. Councilmember Davis. Councilmember Keg. Councilmember McCoy.
Nay.
And Councilmember Middleton. All right, and so that's 2 to 3 yes to no. So now we'll move on to Colleen Baker has nominated Corey Middleton to be the mayor. And I will start with, just as it's randomly selected here on my tally sheet, Councilmember Davis. Councilmember Keg. Councilmember McCoy.
Aye.
Councilmember Middleton. And Councilmember Baker. So we have a 4-1, and our new mayor is Mr. Corey Middleton.
Say something really quick before we move on. I want to thank Mayor Craig for his service of being the mayor for 2 years, and he did lead the direction of us under some turbulent, unprecedented time.
Yeah.
How much? Okay. You owe me $20. City. Huh? City, yeah, city. I'll continue. Yeah, I'll just keep it a speech. Anyways, you know, to Mayor Keg, like I said, he's taken us or taken the city through some hard times with us all here, late hours, many days, many special meetings. And I appreciate his time as mayor because it was very stressful for him and probably sitting here, but especially for him. And I recognize that. And thank you for being the leader. And it is an honor to be voted by the ones who voted for me. And I'm going to be the mayor for everybody here sitting at this table, for the citizens of Yreka. This is the town I was born and raised in. I left for 14 years, came back to be with my family. Saw things that were going on that were so good. And I hope, you know, we're making a dent in it. We made a dent in a lot of things. And I continue the hard work. And I do not take this role lightly. I know the responsibility of it. I've seen it through former Mayor Freeman. I've seen it through Mayor Keg. And I hope I can continue to be a leader just as they were on just the betterment of Yreka. I look forward to serving you as your mayor. So with that, so we go to item number E, right?
That's correct. Yep, 13E.
Yep, 13E, the Mayor Pro Tem of Yreka selection. I will open the floor for nominations for the Mayor Pro Tem position. Nominations do not require a second. Even upon the receipt of one nomination, additional nominations can be made. Please note, any council member can nominate themselves. Multiple nominations are acceptable and will be voted in order they were received. I will open the floor for nominations for Mayor Pro Tem.
I'll make a motion for suggestion for Paul McCoy.
I'll nominate Colleen Baker. Everybody else?
Mr. Mayor, so we'll lead with the first one will be Dwayne's nomination. I'm sorry, Mr. Keg's nomination for Mr. McCoy.
Okay, I will go around for Mr. McCoy as Mayor Pro Tem. Councilman Baker,
No.
Councilman Davis.
Yeah.
Councilman McCoy.
Aye.
And me, Nate.
So I believe I have Council Member Baker, no. Council Member Davis, yes. Council Member Keg, yes. Council Member McCoy, yes. Council Member Middleton, no. Is that accurate?
That's accurate.
Then it is completed.
Okay, good. So our Mayor Pro Tem will be joining the seat next to me again. Will be Mayor Pro Tem, Mr. McCoy. See, you can get away from me. You're back over here again. You can't get away from sitting next to me. And now you're not.
On the shoulder. No, on the shoulder. Give you a shot.
Okay. I'll open up to Mr. McCoy if you would like to say a few words of his new position.
I just want to say thank you, and I look forward to working with all four of you and city manager and staff and Don.
Hi, Norm. Okay, with that, we will return to new business matters.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor and city council members for the city of Yreka. This is Jason Ledbetter, your city manager. So we are on item 13F, which is just our calendar for city council meetings for the year of calendar year 2023. And we are moving forward with the first and third Tuesday of each month. And the only omission is that the first Tuesday in July is July 4th. And so we will not have the meeting on that date. In the past, in my short time here, I made the mistake of saying, let's cancel a couple of these meetings. We won't need them. And lo and behold, we absolutely needed them. So I highly suggest we maintain this calendar. And if it happens to be that we are a week or two before a meeting and is determined we don't need it, we can cancel it at that point, if that works. So this is essentially the very last page, page 139. There's a resolution. And you'll also see back here, there's a recommended, generally what you'll find in your packet is there's a recommendation from staff on requested action. But at this point, the mayor can open this item up for public comment. And then the council can have their discussion after public comment. And then the mayor can call for a motion.
String here. Doesn't move anymore. Okay, I will open up to the public for any comments regarding the calendar for the 2023 meeting calendar for the Yreka City Council. No public comment? Okay, I will close public comment and go to council members. Any changes, any comments? Okay.
Motion to approve resolution. Approving the 2023 city council meeting schedule.
I have a motion from Councilman Kaeg. And a second, from Councilman Baker. I'll just go around the room and do roll call. Councilman David.
Yes.
Councilman Baker. Councilman Kaeg.
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem McCoy.
Aye.
And I, Mayor Middleton, sorry to say, aye. Motion carries. Right. Thank you.
So, Mr. Mayor, this is Jason Ledbetter, city manager, one more time. We've added, which is more applicable, I believe, in future meetings, line 14 to your agenda, where we're calling for council member reports for commissions and committees, where this time we would ask that council members make very specified commentary about whatever meetings may have transpired on the commissions that they are a part of, which are really not applicable this evening, in my opinion. And so I would request that we may just move on to 15, because we also have 16 where council members still have an opportunity to make blanket statements.
Okay. Is everybody okay with that?
So this is Jason Ledbetter, city manager once again. And so for item 15, city manager staff reports, I'm going to keep mine very light. I'm I believe the only person that wants to make a staff report tonight, but I won't stop anyone from coming up here. The only staff report I want to make is that former Mayor Kaeg and I communicated through the cold spell here in late November. There was interest in operating a warming center that we have been talking for many, many months about with Supervisor Ogren. And so even though we don't have an MOU, the MOU is actively being worked through county council. We were still able to bring it together. There were events happening at the community center, which made this a better and more appealing location when I explained that to council member Smith Freeman at the time and Mayor Kaag. And so on Thursday, I believe it was Thursday the 1st and Friday the 2nd, this space was used from 6 p.m. until 8 a.m. And on Thursday evening, we had 8 attendees, and on Friday evening, we had 10. County social workers managed. Chief Gilman was able to get us a YPD officer on site for the safety of the social workers. Things went very well. Council member Mayor Pro Tem McCoy, sorry, I'm still getting, I utilized, because at that point we did not have a porta potty, and obviously, as everyone's aware, we don't have a bathroom connected here. So we're still working on, I conned Mr. McCoy to come down here and handed him my key. And for 12 hours, he let people into the bathroom back and forth. And then Friday night, we had a bathroom. And I'm just going to leave it at that. We have no plans at the moment to open up another warming center. But as it stands right now, generally speaking, the mayor or myself, I would call the mayor or members of the city council based off of possible interest from the county. And we would start the conversation as we see weather approaching. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ledbetter. Don, do you have any reports you want to give us or say anything else? Mr. Henry? Oh, you got to share a mic with. You're good? Okay. Okay, I will go around to council member reports. You don't have any report. I was gonna say, so. Unless.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
am I correct that I understand that the warming center is in the community center?
Oh, I'm sorry. We don't have an official location set up. And so for the last 11 months or so, we've been working to try to find a location, city-owned location. And so we fell upon 2 spots, this room that we're sitting in, the council chambers, and then also the community center. And on the warming center that we just had on the 1st and 2nd of December happened in this space right here. And the reasoning, I think, that pushed it into this space is that there were events already planned and reserved at the community center that made this space more lucrative. So it happened here.
Okay. I think that's totally unacceptable, just so you know how I feel.
Do you have any other staff reports for council members? Or we kind of talked everything out. It's 10:10. So with that said, I will adjourn the meeting for the Yreka City Council for tonight. Thank you.
All right, beautiful.
You can pick me and nudge me. Tell me to speak. Tell me about it. So, it's wrong. Don't give me- Right.